What's going on, Jets fans? Holy cow, nobody's here with me. Let me pop them on. There we go. There's DJ. James, you with us?
I'm
We,
here. I just don't
oh,
see myself. Yeah, there
we'll
you
we'll get you in there. Don't you worry,
go.
brother. It's good to be with you guys. I got DJ Bien-Amie from the New York Daily News. I got James coming eventually. I got to add him. We got a bunch of people in the stream already. We got Harry W, Vern, Matthias Simon, Rusty Spooner, Grant Rude. It's good to see you all in the chat. Let me go ahead and take a few seconds here because I'm not sure why you're not appearing, James. Where are you, James? That's so weird. Let's try this. Nope, don't see your face at all. That is bizarre as hell. Okay. Well, anyways, it's good to be here. Got Eddie De Jesus, Jets gang as well. Rodrigo Costa. We are gonna be talking Jets all night. We got DJ, as I said, and I don't want to waste too much time. I want to get right into it. So DJ, I've seen a little bit of back and forth from you and some other people talking about Drake London. And we got a couple of mailbags here. I'll get to those in a few seconds. But I wanted to start the show off with something a little bit different. Why don't you give me a sales pitch on Drake London? Because there's some people out there that are really adamant that he not only does he not fit the team, isn't as good as some of the other guys out there. And I feel like I'm not really I'm not like super high on Drake necessarily, but I feel like he's getting a lot of hate from Jets fans. And I would be interested to hear what you have to say on it.
I think it's the Denzel Mims situation, but they're not
Mm-hmm.
the same type of player. They Mims issues that it's been more mental than anything. I mean, we all knew that he had the talent, he had the physical traits, he just couldn't put it all together. And I think that was more of an issue for him than like his play style or whatever. With Drake, obviously they don't play the same. I think Mims is a little bit faster anyway, but Mims might be 6'3" and can sometimes, catch a contested 50-50 ball. But Drake can legitimately make a living off of that. And he has a more extensive route tree and runs better routes. He's 6'5", so it looks different. He doesn't, when you're 6'5", your separation is not going to look the same as it does for Elijah Moore. Like Elijah Moore, for him to win, he has to separate. He's not going to be a contested catching 50-50 ball type of guy all the time. You don't want him doing that at all. With Drake, if he's not wide ass open, you know that you can still throw him the ball and he can still make contested catches. And he's a phenomenal athlete, and he can high point passes. Also, when people say he doesn't fit the system, I'm not really too sure where people get that from, because I've had people on staff tell me that we need a guy like that. So, he fits a lot more than I think Burks fits. I think with Burks, you kind of have to. I think Burks has the highest ceiling out of all the other guys
Yeah,
because
Burks is interesting, man. I'm sorry, I'm not gonna cut you off, but I just
yeah,
want
you're
to say
good.
like he presents a lot of versatility, and I think that's something that LaFleur will get hot on. Having somebody that he can kind of move all around and do different things with. But I do think you're right, and if you have anything else you want to add on top of Drake London, because I think he does. I think he presents something that we don't have and that a lot of
Right,
teams don't have. Man, I think it's something
right.
that's just missing from a lot of offenses. So.
Yeah, I'm completely. Again, I had tweeted out, how many times have you seen Zach Wilson throw a ball into a tight window and it get dropped, or throw like a jump ball and it get dropped? Like
Yep.
we've seen that time and time again. Whereas with Corey, Keenan, Elijah, where it's just a good throw in the spot where only his receiver can get it, but since there's a little bit of contact, it ends up getting dropped. We
Mm-hmm.
saw that. I mean, there's plays I can think of right now, top of my head, whether it's Corey Davis against down the sideline against the Broncos, or Elijah Moore, who had a good game against the Eagles, but that one throw down the sidelines, going up top against Darius Slay, or Keenan Cole against the Dolphins on that dig route. It's just little things, or even like Elijah Moore, his first target of his entire NFL career down the field, that deep post that ended up falling on the ground. All those are tough catches, but Drake specializes in that. And another thing that I think, I mean, obviously I'm not 110% sure, but he had one of his quarterback had a relatively weak arm. So, to be honest, maybe we never see him have to use that other gear because there was no point, right? The guy was going to throw the ball anyway, and they probably had it set up to where, like, okay, I'm going to get in a certain position, and you just throw it up to me, and I'll be able to go get it regardless. I'm going to be able to high point it. And I think that's just something that they're missing. I think for me, with out of those three receivers, you can't go wrong, but I like London 1A, Wilson 1B because I love Wilson's route running. I
Yeah,
love his
dude.
hand. He's fantastic, and I think Burks is too. But I don't think you can go wrong with either one of them guys. And also, there's a lot of other receivers in this class. So let's say they decide not to go receiver at 10, you can get another guy in the second round just like they got Elijah Moore.
Yeah, and I think it's again, I don't really care that you have Drake London number one. I think it's just interesting, and I think that's kind of like the life of sports and like sports talk in
Right.
general is hearing different perspectives. And I don't think you're really wild with any of those takes. I think Zach would benefit from having a guy that's just big, strong, go up and get it. And again, like you said, Mims, that's like the fear everybody has. Like, oh, he was supposed to be a contested guy. And it didn't work out, but I don't think that just because it didn't work out with Mims doesn't mean it can't work out with Drake London. James, we'll let you go, and then we'll get to the chat here. Got a lot of people already commenting and throwing some things in there about Drake London and all these receivers. So, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely wouldn't let the Denzel Mims situation scare you from, potentially adding a talent like Drake London, right? And kind of to add to DJ's point, the red zone is got to be somewhat, of a major priority moving forward. When you have a guy that's 6'10", 6'10", would be nice, 6'5", 210, and has the ability to go up and get the football like Drake London can, that makes some decision making in the red zone a whole heck of a lot easier, when you can take it down and say, okay, we're going to give our guy a shot to beat their guy if it's a one-on-one type of situation. Zach, throw the ball in the vicinity, and we have a decent chance to, complete a pass, score a touchdown, however it's going to work. So I do have Drake London up there. I do have Garrett Wilson is one. Drake London is not far behind there either. Traylon Burks, I do agree. There is a really intriguing size speed combination with Traylon Burks that is really something where you see how much Mike LaFleur likes the motion, likes to get guys in different spots. And, a guy that size potentially running the football, an orbit motion type of deal where you can utilize him in a lot of different areas or different ways is something that, this offense really needs. It's playmakers ultimately. And all three of those guys have the ability to make, extremely unique plays that just, they don't come around often.
Okay, very good start. And again, I know the Drake London thing was kind of weird to kick the show off with, but again, it was something I wanted to make sure I got DJ to talk a little bit about. I don't think it's as crazy, as some people are making it out to be, that he could potentially be somebody that the Jets might target. There's definitely a lot of talent there.
There's no might.
Say again?
There's no might.
Oh,
He's
oh.
high up on their board for sure. He's high up on their board. There's no might. He's high up on their board.
I appreciate that. Yeah. That's good. That's good to hear. And I think that's something that, again, fans need to kind of open their mind up a little bit, specifically when they're talking about NFL draft prospects. They always get just a little bit too narrowed in. And there's other guys out there. It's not just a couple of dudes out there in this draft. So, all right, let's go to the comments. So Motivated T says this wide receiver class is bust waiting to happen. It's certainly not as good as some of the classes prior to this year. Prior to, this NFL draft that's coming up. There's some other guys, that were clear-cut guys that you could count on to be 1A wide receivers. This draft, it doesn't necessarily mean you can't find somebody, but there's no Jamar Chase necessarily. There's no Justin Jefferson. He went pretty early in the draft as well. So I hear that, but doesn't mean that it'll be a bust class. We don't know that for sure yet. Matthias Simon, this is kind of what I was expecting to see from some people. It doesn't really fit the scheme. And he is referring to Drake London here, of course. And then we've got a comment here from Grant Rude. And he says, route running in this system is about timing. It's not just about getting open. If you can't get to the spot you're supposed to, following the path you're supposed to, you are not a fit. So pretty harsh words there from some of our chat.
What makes you think London can't do that?
This is the thing, and this is what I've been saying. I think that that's where people maybe are a little bit misguided. I think that Drake London is never going to be a precision route runner. Like, that's not really who he is, but that doesn't mean that he can't work on his route running and can't refine it at the next level and improve on it. And
Right.
I'm not a film junkie. I'm not a film expert, but I watched some of him. And there was, a guy breaking it down, kind of like our guy James does. He was breaking it down and, showed some things that he could change and easily do. It's not just because, he's a good talent, but a guy that can, work on some of those fine details in route running and work on that craft. I don't know. It's tough because I think we all can agree that Garrett Wilson is probably going to be the better route runner in the NFL.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
But doesn't mean that our guy, Drake London, can't do the same thing.
Yeah.
All right. Good. Let's see. I'm looking for some more comments here. Let's go to the mailbag, actually. Let's do that. A lot of people in the chat, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't hit that like button, go ahead and do it right now. Would really appreciate that. Here's our first mailbag, and this one, all of these mailbags are directed at you, DJ, so feel free to answer them, and we'll throw in our 2 cents as well. This is from Elon. He says, we spend a lot of time discussing the draft on this board, but I would like to know about the free agent market. Where do you guys feel there is value, and who should the Jets pursue? A lot of people talk about some of the more notable names. Dalton Schultz is thrown around. I've been tossing around James Daniels, the guard from the Bears. Do you have anybody that you're looking at, DJ, that you think might be a fit that maybe not too many people are talking about?
I mean, they got to get 2 safeties, obviously. So obviously everybody mentioned Marcus Williams. Obviously that'll be a great move for them. And the one safety that I know would be a good move is getting, I forgot to pronounce his name, but obviously it's the other safety, not Jimmy Ward, it's the other guy. I hate mispronouncing names, but if you can get him, who also was in solid system, he knows the system, it wouldn't have to be too much learning for him, along with, let's say you get Marcus Williams. Now you've completely shored up that safety spot, and you don't have to use a high draft pick on maybe, number 4, number 10 pick on Kyle Hamilton, when you could use that for maybe the offensive tackle out of North Carolina State, or maybe Neal, based on, whichever one's available, or if Kayvon Thibodeau falls. It's less of a, well, we have this, we have safety need, we have offensive tackle need, we have a defensive end need, we have corner need. If you could start to chip away at those needs through free agency, because, a lot of the draft talk is, I don't want to use the word pointless, it's still useful to have those talks, but it's hard for them to be concrete until after free agency, when you see, okay, what holes do they still have? So, those are 2 names that I've thought about. Obviously right now, like the Jets, they're just getting into their plans for free agency, like how they're going to attack it. One thing when I was a senior boy, I was kind of shocked, because obviously my first year on the beat, most coaches actually have not, like, I think they're starting to finally get into the college prospects. Like, I can't tell you how many times, like, I asked a coach about this specific prospect, and like I haven't really dove into him yet. So that's just going to show that, when we talk about draft stuff, a lot of it is premature, and you kind of got to figure out what they're going to do free agency before you really want to nail down a lot of the draft stuff. So those are 2 names that I've thought about. That'd be great fits. Obviously, I mean, Marcus Williams is a home run, but then obviously the guy from the San Fran, obviously I don't want to mispronounce his name, the guy opposite side of Jimmy Ward. I think he already knows. Huh?
No, I said all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
All right. So while James is answering, I don't know if it's my end or your end. I can't figure it out, but I can't see your face. If you're hiding your face, that's okay. You can stay as an S on my screen. But
who, me?
Yeah, you. I don't know if it's me or if it's you, but I thought I'd just let you know.
Really? I can see myself on.
It might not be me. It might not be you. It might very well just be me. So don't even sweat it.
Yeah. I'll take a picture of it. I mean, I can see myself on.
All good. All right, James, what do you think? Some free agents that maybe we should be targeting. Where do you think the value is? I actually agree with him, by the way, before I'll let you go. The safety, there's a lot of depth actually right now in the free agent market for safeties. Tons of names there, and not all old guys either. There's some pretty, guys in their prime, I would say.
Hmm.
Yeah, so for me, the secondary, I mean, altogether, the whole thing. I'm a big fan of Bryce Hall and what he can do at the corner spot, but ultimately we need two new safeties. And obviously the guys at the top of the list are the Marcus Williams, the Jesse Bates, et cetera. Depending on how they go about this, are they going to spend the money, right? Is Douglas going to throw out a little bit of cash this year? Because we have seen in the past where he's made decisions where, the dollar is a little bit more valuable. And he decides to draft, a certain way, which is fine. He wants to build through the draft. That's great. But ultimately, they have to start filling this roster in. And the secondary, to me, is super important. But the linebacker spot, and I'm going to kind of go the DJ route here because I don't want to mispronounce his name either. But the linebacker from the Atlanta Falcons played under Jeff Ulbrich, their defensive coordinator. When he was over in Atlanta, he had a monster season. So linebacker CJ Mosley is going to be back, and he provided obviously a ton of value not only on the field but his presence off of it in the film room, in the meeting rooms, kind of bringing everybody along, is an underrated factor there. But he's not going to play forever, and maybe that time in New York is dwindling down. So linebacker spot also needs to be addressed. So they got to find guys that can get around the football, number one. And so on the defensive side of the football, I do think they will spend some money, and hopefully that is at the safety spot, and that is shoring up a little bit of the linebacker position here. And maybe we can go my route of picking a corner in the first round to kind of put together that secondary.
You agree with me? You want a corner in the first round?
Oh yeah. If Ahmad Gardner is there at 10, I don't know how he's not. I don't know why he wouldn't be the pick. I don't care how they value corners in the scheme. Whatever. The dude is super talented. He's rare as they come. 6'3", 200 pounds. In the zone, he's going to get in passing lanes. In man coverage, he's just disruptive as they come. And he makes impact plays, which the Jets secondary has not made all year, or they haven't last year. So for me, DJ, I'm all in on the corner spot. And I know not a lot of people agree, but we got to get guys that can get their hands on the football in this defense.
Go ahead and preach on that, DJ. What do you said? You got a little excited. You have a friend now. You have a cornerback friend.
Absolutely, man. Like it's interesting when people talk about the scheme aspect. Like, wow, like it's for me, it's like yes and no. Like some people will be like, yeah, the scheme doesn't, you don't need good corners. But when people mention like San Fran 2019, people forget that they had Richard Sherman who played at an all-pro level. Right. Like, one time I had, me and Robert Saleh were just talking about that, and he mentioned how sometimes quarterbacks wouldn't even throw his way, which allowed the safety to cheat underneath and not have to worry about Richard Sherman's side. And I remember, listen, there are people on staff that want to use a corner early because they know that in the AFC specifically, like I think you might be able to get away with it in the NFC because there's good quarterbacks in the NFC. But it's not like the AFC. The AFC, you have to worry about Josh Allen with Stephon Diggs, Lamar, who has Marquise Brown and Mark Andrews. You have the Bengals with their trio. You have
Keenan Allen and
yeah,
Herbert. The list is forever long in the AFC.
Exactly. So it's like if you want to ignore that position, it might come back to bite you in the butt. You know what I mean? Like, so I completely agree with James. It's so hard because I'm still in that gray area where I'm trying to figure out, okay, which route should they go with the first two picks? Like, I agree with James. Like, they need corner help. Like, as much as people love, the flashes that Bryce showed, the Jets building, they're excited about the group in terms of like what they could develop, but they all acknowledge that they got to add another guy. So, the way the fan base views the cornerback room and the way the coaches and the front office view the cornerback room are totally different. So
I'll admit I'm guilty of it. I am not saying I want to ignore cornerback, but James definitely is of the mind that they really do need to go get that guy, and he's been talking about Ahmad Gardner for a while now. I won't be upset if they go and they go nab a cornerback early in the draft, or even if they go spend some money on a corner. I think it's
right.
definitely nothing wrong with doing that. James, you want to say
Yeah.
something?
Yeah, sorry, because I kind of feel strongly about it, but
This is your baby. Go ahead.
yeah, because it's all right. So we're saying the scheme, right? And listen, if you can guarantee me that we can pick Richard Sherman in the 5th round, then okay, that's fine. But no one can guarantee me that. So if we're going to try to just find diamonds in the rough later on, and that's going to be the only avenue that we go down to find the corner, that's going to be a potentially very difficult road to go down. But you put the scheme aspect, right? The value that they put or what we think they put on it. And then you turn to game time when you're sitting on your couch on Sunday and people are upset that Brandon Eccles is getting cooked by Stephon Diggs one-on-one in coverage and he's not getting help. So it doesn't make much sense to me as to why in the offseason we say whatever, San Francisco did this without corners, and then we're yelling at our television on Sunday because we have a cornerback who can't guard a guy that's going to be in our division for however many years down the line here. It just, for me, doesn't add up altogether.
I
And,
hear it.
and to add on to that point, like I just saw a comment that said that Robert Saleh.
Yeah. Go
that,
for it.
yeah, but like Saleh, you have to take a lot of what they Saleh say positively with a grain of salt, because like Saleh on the record versus Saleh off the record are two totally different people. So like one thing I've noticed, he's never ever going to criticize a player through the media ever,
Right.
which is smart, right? Don't give me and my colleagues ammunition to just write about how solid just. Cause think about how many times people ask about Greg Van Roden, and he would never ever be like say Greg Van Roden stinks, which we all thought, but he would never say he stinks. He was like, no, he's working. He's doing a fine job. He just has to, he's going through some things, but he's gonna get it right. And then eventually he benched him. Um, but going back to the cornerback spot, it's hard to have a good defense without a at least above average corners unless your front seven is fantastic. And if you're going
Right.
to tell me that the Jets front seven is going to become fantastic in one offseason, well, I have to see it to believe it, because we all thought that their front seven was going to be stout with Carl Lawson and
We
Sheldon
did.
Rankins, and Quinnen and JFM and Foley, and Carl Lawson got hurt, and then the pass rush was basically non-existent. After the Tennessee game, when they got 7 sacks, it was non-existent for the most part for the rest of the year, outside of like the Texans game. So like one player being hurt doesn't change the trajectory of an entire defensive line.
It should not.
And
Yes.
exactly, like the only defensive linemen that consistently got sacks were Quinnen and JFM, who both had, I think, around 6. So like unless you get Kayvon and Kayvon steps in and becomes a 15, 16, 17 sack guy year one, cornerback spot's still going to be an issue. And rush and coverage go hand in hand. Like Robert Saleh always mentions that if you can make a quarterback hitch, then the D line can come get him. And how do you make a quarterback hitch? Good coverage on the back end. So
Right.
Good stuff. Awesome. All right, let's move on to our third mailbag. We only have a couple more. We got this one from Grant Rude. So we just heard from him a moment ago. He says Jets need to acquire a wide receiver 1 type in free agency or via trade before draft day. He says it would open up options going into the draft. And then he lists a couple of names of guys. I think we're all familiar with the rumored, players that
right,
could potentially be grabbed in a big
right.
trade. He also throws in the idea of maybe trading back with Atlanta from 4 to their 8th overall spot. They give us Ridley and we exchange a few mid-round picks. But he's asking you basically at the end of the day, thoughts on the idea of going to get a stud wide receiver before the draft comes. I've made it very clear that that is something that I am all in on. I think that they need to be in on. But what do you think, DJ?
So I tweeted out yesterday about I wouldn't be mad if the Jets use a first or second round pick to get Ridley. But when I said first or second round pick, I didn't mean like it could have been for next year. It
Sure.
I was saying like generally. But like if they stayed put and got one of the 3 guys that I mentioned, they would be in a great spot because like I really like those top three guys. I like those top three guys, and I mean I have to do some more on Dobson from Penn State, who's basically Elijah Moore clone.
He is.
um, which you can't go wrong with that. We all know Elijah Moore is extremely talented. So, I mean, as I said, I wouldn't be mad if they went after one. There's nothing wrong with doing that. Obviously, don't give up too much. If you can give up like a second or maybe a one for next year, if you to be able to acquire one of those guys, now you have to worry about having to use one of those top 10 picks on a receiver. You could just worry about filling those other needs with a corner or safety or D line or offensive tackle or So those are my thoughts. But I will throw in that if you do trade for one of those guys, you got to pay him.
Yeah.
Calvin, you got to pay him a lot. DK, you're going to pay him almost $20 million, maybe even more than that. Coop is on a 16. He's getting paid 16, and he's probably going to want his contract redone because there's no more guaranteed money left. So if that's right, we want to go. Cool. Like, I mean, I said I wouldn't be mad either way because at the end of the day, I see the vision. You're trying to get Zach Wilson help. That's why I mentioned like I wouldn't be mad. It was funny to see people be so get so emotional about the take when it's like, yo, like at the end of the day, like I said, I wouldn't be mad because at the end of the day, they're getting Zach Wilson help.
People tend to get testy over stuff sometimes, as you know.
Yeah.
Apparently Cooper is $22 million according to Ephraim. I haven't heard that. I thought he was around that 16 mil mark, but he's not. At the end of the day, you're right. It's going to be very costly. My thing is, and I'll let you talk, James, after this. My concern is you get, another rookie in here. Are you really comfortable counting on that player in year one to be somebody that Zach can 100% count on? And of course, there's examples of that working out, but it's not. I don't think that's the safe bet really right now.
Right.
Going into the draft and expecting to get even a wide receiver too is pretty high expectations, I would say. So for me personally, I am going out there and I'm shopping and I'm going to get Zach a weapon. Go do what the Cardinals did for Murray. Go do what the Bills did for Josh Allen. The Chiefs have not stopped adding things around Mahomes the entire time he's been the quarterback. They have not stopped one single offseason, spent first-round picks on weapons, trading for offensive linemen, signing offensive linemen. So don't stop and just be really, really aggressive. I think that's something that I will be pretty disappointed with, if they don't go and get some big-time weapons. So, James, what do you think?
Yeah, so if they want to add, that elite, wide receiver one, I think it has to come via the trade, right? If we're comparing free agency and the trade market, I mean, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like the bigger names in free agency right now all are coming off relatively significant injuries, the Godwins, the Gallups, etc. So you're taking a risk there in terms of, okay, what do you pay them? And if it doesn't work out health-wise, it's a potential waste. The trade market, you both are right. It's going to be extremely costly because of draft capital plus contract. You look at a guy like Calvin Ridley, would love to have him. What's he going to cost in the actual trade? And then he turns 28 in December. He was a guy as a rookie who was 24 years old. He was kind of that Marcus May mold, where Marcus May is going to hit free agency for the first time at 29, I think maybe 29. So a little bit older, to where what does the length on that contract look like if you give it to a Calvin Ridley? So that's something to think about. Do you go the DK Metcalf route, which would most likely cost the most capital altogether? And then Amari Cooper, I think he's a great player. Injury-wise, he's not always available, and we don't know. That might be the cheapest of the three options, in my opinion, draft capital-wise at least.
Yeah, I think the Cowboys, if they were actually interested, which we don't even know if they're willing to do that, but if they were, we would be helping them out a little bit because they would be releasing that money that they would have to pay him. So it would be kind of helpful to them. All right, cool. We got a couple of interesting comments here, actually. So let me see if I can find it. Jared Helmuth, he says, how about a trade for Jerry Jeudy? Denver paid Patrick, and they also paid Cameron Sutton. Or Cortland Sutton, excuse me. They paid Cortland Sutton. They paid Patrick as well. I would be fine with that. It's not as surefire as going and getting those other guys that we mentioned, but I would be willing to take a swing on that, and we would be able to move a little bit in the draft, get more picks. So I'm okay with taking that swing, but I'm pretty steadfast in my approach this offseason. They need to go ahead and they need to go identify somebody and aggressively go get them. No effing around. Go find your guy and go get Zach what he needs. You just see too many examples of it helping quarterbacks early in their careers to develop, because year 2, Zach Wilson's not going to be a Pro Bowl quarterback. I think we would all agree there. Like, he's probably not going to elevate himself that far in 1 year, but it will help him. It will help him to develop and learn the game, and he'll have somebody they can trust. I think that's super duper important. Let's go to mailbag number 4. And this is from Paul Esden, who you probably know, DJ, on Twitter. And he's also on YouTube, got himself a Jets YouTube channel. He says, what's his early, and he's talking about you, DJ, what's his early bold prediction for the offseason, and maybe something about the 2022 season? So a 2-folder, bold predictions, DJ. It is February, but we're asking for you to make wild predictions very, very early in the cycle here, but this is why they pay you the big bucks, man.
I think bold prediction for the offseason. Man, that's a good one. I didn't even think about that.
He's a writer, so this is what he does. He likes to throw the curveballs at us.
No, I think they're for sure. I don't know, because it's like anything you say won't be bold, right? Because it's like, if I say they're gonna get Zach Wilson help, that's not bold. Like, they should do that. Yeah. They're gonna shore up the offensive line. I mean, it was kind of. I mean, let me see. Oh, I think not bold prediction.
It's okay if it's not the most bold prediction ever. It is, like I said, it's February. So
no, I think there's a great chance that Kayvon Thibodeau ends up on the Jets.
Bold. That is bold. That's bold.
If I had to make a bold prediction, I think Kayvon Thibodeau ends up on the Jets. Not because just based off of like some of the buzz going around him, he might fall. I just can't see a scenario where the Jets pass up on Kayvon Thibodeau.
Dude, that's what I'm just saying.
Because of the motor. So there's a chance he'll be there, and I do not see a scenario where they pass on him for an offensive tackle or cornerback.
I 100% agree with that. And if he had asked me the question, I would have said the same thing, because that's exactly what I want to happen on draft night. How about the 2022 season? What do you got for a prediction? Because again, there's no freaking way to know. We don't know what the free agency is. We don't know what the draft is. So it's a complete wild card bold prediction. So
they don't finish last in the division.
Let's go, baby. Big time. I like that. That's actually pretty good. I'll take it. All right. We've got one more, and then I think you probably have to run, and that's okay. We really appreciate you stopping by and hanging out with us. Really, really cool of you to do that.
Well, definitely.
This is from Jeremy Cravat, and he says, even though you are a Miami fan,
right?
Because of course we got to throw that in there. Do you want the Jets to turn it around and be a top team for professional reasons? And I guess what he means by that is if the Jets elevate themselves, we all enjoy it. We all enjoy the fruit of that labor. We all get to have more people interested. So is that something that you'd be willing to do?
Yeah. So like, I agree to an extent. It has to be either or. Like, they got to be really good. Or they got to be really bad. It's either. The in between does not work for me. Because in between is just, there's more emotion when it's, either or. I mean, obviously, like if you're in between, kind of like a 500 team, depends how you become a 500 team. But yeah, I mean, of course, like you want the team that you cover to be good, because then like that increases your profile, right, to a legitimate extent. So yeah, I mean, I don't, obviously I'm a Dolphins fan, but I don't really care. Like, well, I remember watching the first game. I was, I thought it would be a lot weirder than it was. It was whatever. Like, it was
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
Like, I'm here to do my job. Like,
We talked about that when we talked. It was like almost a year ago. I asked you that, and I was like, "This is like a separate thing from fandom. Like you are being paid to cover the team, and if you were, BSing us and like talking about the Dolphins, and I don't know. I just don't see how anybody could possibly go to a job like that and not do what they're supposed to do. So
exactly.
All right. Well, anyway, man, really appreciate you stopping by. Guys, if you're not following DJ on Twitter, I do have his Twitter handle in the description of the stream. So check that out and follow him on Twitter because he's awesome and gives a lot of good takes, lots of good information. DJ, nothing but the best, man. Thanks so much for stopping by.
Thanks,
No
DJ.
problem. Thank you guys for having us. Nice to meet you, James.
Nice to meet you, DJ.
The cornerback love. We are on an island.
Yes,
we are on an island, man.
We're gonna have to stick together. We're gonna have to stick together, yeah.
Because not enough people. They don't see it how we see it, man.
No, man. I hear you.
Well, all right, guys. You guys have a good day.
Yeah, you too, man. Thanks so much.
Have a good night, man.
Yep.
Yes.
Take it easy. Well, and I do have to admit, I'm an idiot for not getting his face on the screen. I had Skype open, but I had minimized it too much.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I had shrunk down the Skype window too much, and it just eliminated him. So you live and you learn, baby.
There you go.
Anyways, the mailbag is done, and we are going to pay more attention to the stream now. So our commenters, and we got a bunch of you in here. Thankful for you all for sticking around, even though we didn't really get to your comments too much there. We only had DJ for a short period of time, so wanted to make sure we got the most out of his time. So, anyways, let's get this thing started. We've got our mailbags done, and we'll go to Senior Bowl reactions. And if you guys comment into the stream here, I will highlight some of your comments here on what your takeaways were from the game. Could be a player, could be a position group. Could be the fact that Ron Middleton is the GOAT of all head coaches. But anyway, James, I'll let you go first here. I'll get to my chat here in just a few moments. What were your takeaways from the Senior Bowl?
Yeah, so I'm going to be a little biased here. And I think that's okay because I don't think it's a crazy point. But one of my reactions, like as a whole for the Senior Bowl was the Jets came out of this thing as a big-time winner. Mm-hmm. Coaching the national team, being around the players all week long, getting that inside look at those guys. And then when you look at the week at the end, the end of the week as a wrap-up, the positions that the Jets need the most, they had some players really, really stand out to where they're not going to be – those guys aren't going to be picked 4 or 10. Those guys aren't going to be picked in the first round, but they would potentially be really, really great fits towards those maybe early, middle to middle rounds there. I'll throw out, a name, Boye Mafe, edge out of Minnesota. We didn't hear anything about him until the Senior Bowl week. And then all of a sudden, as he performed in that Senior Bowl week, it was like, all right, there were those flashes on tape. It may not have been consistent while he was at Minnesota, but hey, are his tools, really, really difficult to pass on if you're looking at a top 100 pick? And most likely the answer is yes. So if you do miss out on that edge spot at 4 or 10, maybe you didn't feel it like you wanted to in free agency, does a guy like him really come into play at 69 if he's on the board? And so I think that's really where it was pretty interesting that the Jets got to coach this game. And then guys in spots where they need to fill, and we're going to see them pick those kind of players, tight ends, linebackers, defensive line, offensive interior of the offensive line. Those guys are really going to be potentially solid draft picks if that's how it works out, in April.
Yeah. And I'm weekly am saying my obsession with pass rushers. There was quite a bit of good defensive play. I thought overall in the Senior Bowl it was more defensive than it was offensive.
Yeah.
I liked what I saw out of Pitre, and I think I'm saying that name correctly, the Baylor safety. He looked really, really good. I saw a couple of plays with my guy, the linebacker Chad Muma. Thought he stood out, was stopping the run really nicely, got his hands, almost got a pick at the end of the game. I really like what I see out of him. I had read some reports saying that maybe he struggled a little bit during the practices. I hadn't seen that necessarily, but he looked good in the game. The running back, Rashad White. There were not a lot of running lanes in the game. It was like they were having a really hard time, and maybe that's because these offensive linemen just haven't played together ever. So the defense just has the advantage there. But I thought that Rashad White ran the ball really, really hard. Made something out of nothing in a lot of circumstances. Made people miss. Bounced off tackles. In a way, kind of reminded me of Michael Carter in the ability to stay balanced, stay on his feet, and move the pile forward just a little bit. So I liked that a lot. And if you compare him with Michael Carter, I think that's a great combination. And there was also the wide receiver from North Dakota State. And
Christian Watson, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people are talking about this guy. And I remember going into the game, I was like, who's Christian Watson? Who's Christian Watson? And I saw that he's a huge dude, 6'5", 208 pounds. He's basically the same build as Drake London out of USC, with not as much fanfare. Like, he's not the notable guy who's going to end up in the the first round.
Right.
And he looked really good, I thought, as well in the game. He ran decently. He caught the ball, made some plays with it after the catch. So that was an interesting player. Could he be somebody that the Jets target, after the first round and say, maybe we don't go get Drake London, but maybe we go look and try to get this guy, Watson, in maybe the second or third round. I don't know how high he'll climb, but he's definitely climbing after the Senior Bowl week. He looked really good, apparently, in practices. And that's pretty much the players. Those are the guys that came away. Oh, and there's one more. Sorry. The tight end, Wisconsin.
Jake Ferguson.
Jake Ferguson. And we just saw it in the chat here. Vern threw it in there. He looked really, really solid. We saw McBride score a touchdown, but I think that maybe I would have been able to score there. Lumbering behind the offensive line there. He looked good, though, in the game. So there's a lot to like. There's a lot of players that I thought really caught my eye. Let me go to the chat here before we move any further. Let's see. Jeremy Ruckert looks amazing. Please, Joe Douglas, go get him. He did not play in the game, but I do hear what you're saying, Jets Marvel. For anybody that didn't know, his grandfather passed away just a couple of days before the Senior Bowl, and that's why he missed out, unfortunately, for his whole family, obviously. It's pretty devastating news for sure. Joe Campione, he says that I think Sam Howell out of UNC, he says he sneaks into QB1 in this draft. This quarterback class is so up in the air right now, but in my opinion, it's probably going to be Malik Willis or Kenny Pickett. I hate to be a bandwagon rider, but basically that's what I think we're looking at here. But he looked pretty good too. I noted Sam Howell looked pretty good in the 2-minute drill where he got his team in field goal range before half, I believe. Mm-hmm. They didn't end up hitting the kick because they had to run the kicker out there real fast, and he missed it. But he did a pretty good job, I thought, in that situation. Getting the team in position to get some points before half. So, any other takeaways you got for us?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll add a couple names to that list. Obviously, Zion Johnson, right? He potentially, did he move himself into the first round, or we may, if we're looking to fill that interior offensive line, right guard spot there, is he not going to be there at 35? Now, I don't know how the board's going to fall, but, he seems like a guy that moved himself into the first round. You talk about, Joe Douglas, Robert Saleh want guys who love football, and there's Zion Johnson all week staying after practice, taking snaps as a center because he didn't really do it at Boston College, and he's trying to learn. He's trying to be versatile. So obviously a guy there who's willing to put in the work, and probably, I know interior defensive line is like PTSD for Jet fans in the draft, but Perion Winfrey essentially wrecked the entire Senior Bowl game. It was wildly impressive. He was everywhere. He had 3 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, Senior Bowl game MVP. So, he's most likely, I would assume now, I haven't read anything, but he's going to be a first-round player. The Jets aren't going to take him in the top 10, but, so I don't think he'll be on any kind of radar. But, hey, listen, we have a lot of time left. If a guy like that, for one reason or the other, slips into the second round for some reason, I don't see, a way where you would potentially pass on him if you're going to tag him with a Quinnen Williams inside type of deal. So that'd be interesting. But the national team just had so many guys perform really well, and it just so happened that we coached the football team. So the Jets.
Yeah, and Will Parkinson, he has his own podcast as well. I don't want to say the wrong name and disrespect his his content, but basically he put out how the Lions coaching staff and their approach to the Senior Bowl week and the practices and the game, he said it was like night and day how the Jets approached it, and all of the energy and the fire that they were bringing to those practices, to the game.
Yeah.
That's what as fans, we want our coaches to be not only the best, but we want the players to want to play for them. And it seemed like the players on the national squad, they were very happy to be playing for that staff.
Yep.
And I think that's great. I think that's exactly what we're looking for here. We want players to want to play for the Jets, and that starts with players coming into the league and also the players that are in the league. I wanted to read this comment. It sucks that Zion did that good. He's not really hidden anymore. Shaking my head. I do love Zion. What are your thoughts on Zion perhaps sliding into that late first round? Maybe he's already there. Where do you think where he ends up as a guard / center?
Yeah, I could see him going probably from 24 to 32. I think he's definitely slides into the back end of that first round. Mm-hmm. And if the Jets want to be aggressive and move up, they have the capital to do it, to get back into that first round. But I do think he's going to wind up as a first round pick at toward the back end of the draft.
Yeah. We'll see how that works out. There's always players that slip that you just don't ever see like you wouldn't have guessed that it would happen for whatever reason. I remember the coverage linebacker from Notre Dame, Joker, was that the nickname they would call him?
Yeah, the Joker.
Yeah, he slipped out of the first round, and many people were predicting that he would be, in that first round. So I'm not saying Zion will slip to the second round, but you never know. Just got to hope. There's definitely going to be good players at 35. It's just up to the Jets to find out who it is. All right, let's see. Yes, the players were chanting all gas, no brakes. I did tweet that one out. That was super cool. They had a couple of days with these players, and they already had them living the mantra. They were saying it in their interviews. They were chanting it as they came out to the field. I thought that was pretty cool. It's like they brainwashed them. The Jets staff. They don't waste any time. Jets Marvel, he says, I think Ikem will shoot up in the combine and let us get either Hutchinson or Tibb. So maybe he's saying that Ikem will go ahead of some of these pass rushers. I hope so. I think if I'm being honest, I think that's what we're going to end up having to do. Not that's a bad thing, but I think we're going to end up in a situation where we're going to take an offensive lineman just because those pass rushers are gone. And I don't know if anybody's going to want to trade up, but we'll see. If you guys could do me a big favor, there's a lot of you in here right now, over 50 of you. Hit that like button for us. Would really mean a lot to the channel. Helps us out a lot. Gets more eyes on the channel for sure. So thank you if you do hit it. Would really appreciate it. Nolan D is saying it would be murder if the Bengals passed on Zion Johnson. I think that's who he's talking about. Yeah, they need to go get some offensive linemen this offseason, right? They're in the Super Bowl, but they got some needs.
Yeah, that's for sure.
They have some needs. Rusty Spooner says Donovan West is looking pretty good from ASU. Kid's a maniac, plays all the positions on the line. Kev Chatta, he says, he's talking to Joe Grana. I apologize. And he says the Lions fan base would crucify the team if they passed on Hutch. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. That right. 1-2 picks, like the first 2 picks, I think are going to be very interesting. What did the Jaguars do at number 1 overall? I don't know what they're going to do. Were they the ones that hired Lovie Smith as head coach?
No, that was the Texans hired Lovie Smith.
Okay, they picked 3. Number 1 is Jags. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the Texans do as well. Lovey's got that background, obviously, in defense, so maybe he goes and gets an edge. Who knows, though? But they should really. Do you think they, with the Texans? I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? What would they end up considering doing at that spot? Because I'm not really sure. They've got they got that kid. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. They've got Davis Mills. Yeah, so maybe they try to build around him. Who knows?
Yeah, right. It's because they took him with a 3rd round pick last year. I want to say a 3rd round pick. So it's not a complete, non-valuable asset there. A 3rd round for me, I still pretty much consider it to be a premium asset. Just because, look, we have a 3rd round pick. It's pick 69. There's only 68 players taken beforehand. And so they made an investment in him. And I don't think it's one of those situations where you say, well, it was under a previous, coach, or it was under a previous regime. Like, the GM's still there, and David Culley, I think, just got the raw end of the deal. He was a 1-year type of coach. He was gonna, unless they did something miraculous, he was gonna be out. So I still think that regime values Davis Mills, but I do think they wind up on the defensive end. I can't see one of these quarterbacks going through top 3. I just don't see it.
No.
So I don't think, even though they're a wild card of a franchise, they haven't really done things correctly. So I guess you don't put anything, you don't throw anything out of the picture. But I do think they wind up going the defensive route, because I think the Jaguars are going to opt to protect Trevor Lawrence. I think that would be the way to go. As new regime, get your guy a left tackle, get him some protection, and then it becomes Hutchinson, Thibodeau, what happens there at 2 and 3.
Awesome. Jared, you've thrown some really good comments in there. I'm going to keep reading them if you keep putting them in there. He says the Texans are the wild card. Everyone expects the Jags to take a tackle or an edge. Lions are taking probably an edge. And he says nobody has any idea what the Texans are going to do. I would say maybe even Kyle Hamilton. That could be a part of the Texans' plans. Maybe they throw the draft capital at him. Go get Kyle Hamilton at that 3rd overall spot. That would be pretty interesting for them. I think Lovie Smith would love to have a guy like that in the back end too as well. All right. We are going to move on from the Senior Bowl. We got off topic there a little bit, but that's okay. It is the off season, so no big deal. We're going to talk about top 10 wide receivers that we have in the NFL draft. And just, again, I am not an expert. I am a fan of the New York Jets, and I did do my research and I did read about it, but I'm not a film junkie by any means. So this really is just a fan's perspective. And James, do you want to go first? Do you want to give us your 10, or do you want to give maybe the top 5 first?
Yeah, let's go top 5 first, then we'll
Sure.
go back and forth.
Cool.
So I have Garrett Wilson 1. I have Treylon Burks 2. I have Drake London at 3. Maybe a little surprise here, but I have Chris Olave at 4. And then I have Jahan Dotson at 5.
Okay. I'm just trying to check and see who my 5th one is, and it might surprise you, actually. So I don't know what to say about Jamison Williams, other than that
Oh,
maybe he would have been the number one wide receiver off the board if he were not hurt. So I actually have him at number 5. Do you think that's outlandish that maybe a team takes him in the late first, early second? Because I feel like if he happened to be there at 35, holy crap, man, that would be some really good value.
yeah, it's not outlandish at all. I have him at number 6. And the only reason I kept him, and it pained me to do it because, listen, injuries are injuries. They could tell you he's expected to make the full recovery, but he's still going to go in that first round, in my opinion. I think
Yeah.
it's going to be hard for him to work out for any teams. Obviously, I don't know where he ends up starting the year. He's probably going to miss some time for the team training camp, OTAs wise and stuff like that. But I think there's going to be a team in that back half of the draft, which is going to say we can take this chance on Jamison Williams. Too good to pass up on the skills if he winds up being completely healthy, which ACLs are a little bit, I don't want to say, uh, you know, not significant injuries, but we see guys coming back from them quite often now.
Yeah, it's modern medicine, man. It's a big deal. It
It's
means a
crazy.
lot. They know how to do that surgery now. Like, they are very, very good at what they do. So anyway, I'll go ahead and do my top 5. I've got Garrett Wilson number 1. I actually put Drake London number 2, which again I think is going to really tick some people off. I'm looking at the production with the situation at USC. The quarterback was not very good. He got hurt and still was, I think, believe like top 10 in the nation or something like that, right? Like in
Yeah.
production. Yeah, he was like really, really good. I get it. Not a perfect fit. I know there's people out there that are saying Traylon Burks is a perfect fit for the scheme. And I'm gonna just say, other than the versatility that he offers with being able to kind of line up in different spots, he is not a refined route runner. From what I'm reading online and from what I'm watching watching in some of the film for him, he is not a he does not he has not perfected his craft in that regard. He is not the same type of route runner that Garrett Wilson is. And I think that maybe we're all just a little bit too high on him. I think maybe he's not going to end up in the top 10. I just took him in my mock draft at number 10 overall. So I'm a little bit of an ass for saying it, but I do think that maybe we're all just a little bit too high on him. Perhaps he goes a little bit later in the first round. So I've got London ahead of him for that reason. I think the size, speed, and I think that Drake London's going to run a little bit better than maybe people think for the size that he is. Um, yes, that's what I see Grant Rude too. Just like, you know, would he be a good fit? I think he could be a good fit, but he is pretty raw. And things that I've been reading online suggest that he rounds his routes out and not really cutting. So no Traylon Burks in the top 2, but he's still third in my list here. I have Chris Olave actually at 4 as well. I
Cool.
stuck him there. I think he's being slept on a little bit,
Yes.
and that could be some really good value too. Like again, if you don't go and get the number 1 wide receiver in the class and you just wait a little bit, I think Chris Olave is going to be a late first, early second, right? Like in that range, maybe a
Oh, for
first
sure.
rounder. So you could potentially get him too, and I feel like that's really good value. I like him a lot though. There's things that I've read that say he's maybe the best route runner in the whole class, even better than Garrett Wilson. And he offers a little bit more versatility, I think, being able to line up on the outside. Garrett Wilson can line up on the outside,
Mhm.
but I think the idea is that people see him more as a slot guy in the NFL. The name that I'm thinking of is the Steelers wide receiver, and his name is not coming to my
Uh,
mind.
Deontay Johnson.
Deontay Johnson. Yeah, he was on my fantasy team, so I should have known his name, but kind of reminds me of him a little bit. He also lines up on the outside, but again, a lot in the slot. So yeah, and Jared says, he's also faster than Wilson. I think that Wilson is
Yeah.
got a ton of burst, but like straight line speed wise, I think that Olave does have that a little bit more ahead of him, or a little bit more than him. Jameson Williams, excuse me, is my fifth wide receiver. The upside, I'm willing to ignore the injury and take a flyer on him there. All right, so that's our top 5. Oh, and a fun fact, Jameson Williams, I'm an ass for not knowing this. He was at Ohio State before last season. Didn't even know that.
Yeah, he was.
They transferred him. He hadn't even really played a whole lot, so he got his shot and he made the most of it. Who's your 6 through 10?
So 6, I have Jameson Williams. He would be a whole heck of a lot higher on this list if the injury for me. But and I think especially when we're talking about the Jets, there is again another injury. We have a lot of PTSDs for the Jets, but injuries is one of those triggers for us. And but ultimately, as a player, I studied him pretty extensively. Before the college football playoff and then against Cincinnati. And really, he was on his way to a monster national championship game. Maybe that's not a biased opinion. He was going to have a monster game there as the top target for Bryce Young. And ultimately, that's the game he ended up injured in. But the way that he runs is just, you can tell, like on tape, it's like, okay, that guy's fast, there's a lot of fast athletes on that field, but when you see James, it sticks out like a sore thumb. Like he's like, that dude is just blowing by everybody. And so that's his niche is, he might've been a high 4.2 type of guy. If he was able to run at the combine.
I want to add something on him, and again, something that I've read that I've found, and you can tell me if I'm saying it wrong or not, but basically at the top of his route, his vertical route running and his deep route running is excellent. So he isn't just a speed guy that's only resorting to his speed to get open. This is a guy who also does run really nice crisp routes and is able to use that to his benefit to get even more open. So kind of like not like a guy that's just relying on his speed. I just want to make sure that's thrown out there.
Correct. And because him, and we'll kind of talk about this with Garrett Wilson when we go over it too, he gets that burst out of the break, which makes him even more dangerous speed-wise, right? Because that's kind of where it starts to really, when you talk about separation, that's where it really starts to get where, okay, a Garrett Wilson may not have an elite speed like a Jameson Williams, but the way that he runs his routes leaves him incredibly open at the top of his route when he gets out of the break. And so, yeah, Jameson Williams, and John, it's kind of perfect you brought that up because there's one play against Miami that Jameson Williams had. So if anyone wants to look it up, it was a 97-yard touchdown, and he's running it out of the slot, and he kind of runs a corner route, but the way he ran the route was pretty sophisticated to the point where he beat both the corner and the safety and ran for a 97-yard touchdown. So if you're into some Jameson Williams, check out that clip. I'm sure you can find it on YouTube or I'll tweet it out maybe. But yeah, so pretty special there. And so number 7, I put George Pickens at number 7 because I think he's a guy that teams are going to look at tools-wise and say, okay, he had some injuries. The production would have probably been there if he could have played more. But, he is 6'3", 200 pounds, incredible athlete. And I think teams are going to say, okay, he may not be in that top 5. He might be a guy that we're willing to take. I think he's going to wind up in that second round as a wide receiver with just a whole bunch of tools that, a team is going to want to add to their offense. 8, I moved Christian Watson up to 8. So I moved him up to 8. He wasn't originally, I honestly didn't know who he was. And I moved him up to 8 because we look at you, and you mentioned him with Drake London, how they're kind of similar in size. But it ultimately looks different for whatever reason. Maybe he looks a little bit slimmer than Drake London. So, and I think he is a little bit faster than him. And so there's some kind of straight line speed there at that size. So I really moved him up. I moved him up to 8. Number 9, I have David Bell from Purdue. I think he is an underrated route runner in the class. Yep. And then number 10, I have Wandale Robinson from Kentucky, who is on the little bit, not shorter, he's 5'11", 185, a little bit smaller, but he is shifty. He can make plays, and some team is going to value that relatively high in this draft.
Awesome. Well done. I was worried you said Pickens at 7. I was like, this is going to be the same damn list, but no, we've got some differences, so that's a little bit more interesting. A couple of comments. So Michael Elias is letting us know that Rutgers beat Ohio State, took down the number 16 team. He was pretty fired up about it, I think. So if you're a Rutgers fan, there you go.
Is that basketball?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
College basketball.
Say, probably not football, right?
No. And I doubt he's talking about lacrosse, even though I don't think it's even in season. So let's see. Snoopy, he's saying Burks can literally play every wide receiver position along with screens, gadgets. Mims can't do any of those things. And I'm not taking that away from him, definitely. And again, I like Burks a lot, so try not to worry too much about me saying he's number 3. I think that he's still very, very talented, and you absolutely are considering him if you're the Jets in the first round. If you move back from 10, I think he's got to be a consideration there. I don't know. It's tough. This is an interesting wide receiver group. It's not clear cut, I don't think, and there's a lot of disagreements online. That's one of my favorite things is to disagree. I love that, and so I'm going to be talking about the wide receivers a lot this offseason. All right, without further ado, David Bell. You talked about his route running. He's my number 6 guy. 6'2", 205 pounds. He's not exactly as big as Corey Davis, but he kind of reminds me of Corey Davis in that way. Lots of production, over almost 1,300 yards his last year there at Purdue. Not necessarily a game breaker with speed, so that is something to consider. The run after the catch ability isn't like excellent or anything like that, but still, adequate, just not like a strength necessarily. And again, strong hands for David Bell. He uses his hands to pluck the ball out of the air very, very nicely. I also have George Pickens, as I said, number 7 overall. This is a wide receiver that is a little bit thin, I guess, if that's, and not, I mean, the thing that I'm reading here, and it's in front of me, but like maybe not going to be very good on the outside blocking, but I don't know if that's why I only have him, or excuse me, that's why I didn't knock him way down. I don't think you put a guy way down on your list just because he's not an excellent run blocker. Like, I don't think that should be a reason to not draft the player. So George Pickens I have at 7. I put Romeo Doubs from Nevada. I thought he looked pretty good in the Senior Bowl game. And he's got a lot of speed, and I think Joe Douglas will like the size, the speed combination there. And again, a ton of production in college, over 3,300 yards in college football, 26 touchdowns. So this guy makes some big plays. There was some issues with drops. That was one of the things I read online as well. Justin Ross, who I think Grant Root is going to literally jump out of his seat because he's been preaching about Justin Ross. I have him number 9. He had the congenital fusion in his spine. He had a surgery in 2020. And that's not a small surgery by any means. The spine obviously makes it a big deal. But people who have that surgery, it's not even, there's no guarantees that they will be able to resume the same physical level that they were. He played this past year, which is awesome. 10 games, 46 receptions, 514 yards, 3 touchdowns. So it's super cool that he's, back to playing. And he's got some really great size. He's explosive, 6'4", 200 pounds. And, he's not the same type of guy like a Drake London. He's not really going to struggle with route running. I think he's a really good player. Guy can fall paralyzed. Okay, so somebody's saying that he could potentially become paralyzed. I don't know. I think the surgery was successful. And is there risk? I guess maybe. But do you know anything about that, James? Because I personally didn't read anything like, he's seriously at risk for having another injury.
Right. He played this year after the surgery, correct?
Right. Yep.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he played 10 games. I think he missed a couple, but But yeah, no, Justin Ross is a really good point, because you talk about a guy who, if he didn't have that injury, we both probably have him a whole heck of a lot higher.
Snoopy's poking fun at me a little bit. He says, no Burks, but let's go get a guy with a spine problem. That's not even what I said, Snoopy. I said
Yeah, I
Burks.
want to defend John here a little bit. John has Traylon Burks as the number 3 wide receiver in the entire country. Like, that is, at that point you're so close to one. You have him in elite category. Number 3 is nothing to be ashamed of.
Yeah.
With the thousands and thousands of wide receivers that are out there.
Yeah. So I don't mind you poking a little bit of fun at me, Snoopy. It's okay. But yeah, I do like Traylon Burks still a ton, and there's certainly maybe some risk with Justin Ross, but when you're talking about the 9th or 10th prospect at the position, I'm okay with taking a swing at the fences. And then my number 10 guy, it's Christian Watson. You talked a lot about him. I won't go on and on. The production wasn't necessarily there in college, but I don't know if they throw it a lot at NDSU. So from what I'm reading about him, he looks like a hell of a prospect, somebody that you could potentially take, and he just blossoms into the NFL. So there it is. That's our top 10 wide receivers in the draft. Let's see. Give me Ross at 10, actually. Oh, are you saying 10th in the draft? I don't know.
Overall?
No. Yeah, I think that's what he's saying. Grant, I don't know if I could do that, but I know you're super high on him, and you were high on Elijah Moore. So I trust you in what you see in him, so no worries about that. I'm just not going to go take him at 10th overall, so no worries. All right, we're going to transition to our next topic, and we will be doing a breakdown of Mr. Garrett Wilson in a little bit, so stick around for that if you're here watching us live right now. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. Really appreciate all of the people that tuned in tonight. There's a lot of viewers, so that's awesome. We'll also try to do a 3-round mock draft. I think that's something we'll try to do every week. And then maybe as we get a little bit closer, we'll start doing those 7-round mocks, because we're still looking at like 3 months out from the NFL draft. So let's keep going here. These next couple of topics are real short and sweet. There's not a lot of discussion here. So we'll get to your baby next. Let's go ahead and let's get rid of this top 10. And let's pull up Carl Lawson. So I got a question in the chat. I will get to you next, Michael. I'm not going to ignore you. I've got your question. I will go to it right after we talk a little bit about Carl. What are your thoughts on, counting on him next year? What's your level of expectation for him to recover? Of course, it's hard to know. He's coming off of a very serious injury. But what are you hoping for, or what are you expecting from him? I'll let you just go.
Yeah, so I thought about this question a lot yesterday. And I want to temper, right, the expectation. And it is obviously because of the significance of the injury. You think about the Achilles and, him being a defensive end or an edge player, where he's got his hands in the dirt, and he's got to explode out of that stance. And the reason I want to temper the expectation is just because I don't want people to get impatient with him if it doesn't happen right away, because I don't think it's going to happen right away. I'm not going to discount that he potentially, won't get back to the level that he once was. Listen, Cam Akers is somehow playing in the Super Bowl. But ultimately, that's not how everybody's recovery goes. And so, for us, right, the fan side of it is, Jets Twitter was in shambles when that injury news broke. Like, it was a dark, dark day, because we had all these expectations, all this hype surrounding him from beating everyone's, in training camp. And then it just felt like the world came down. And for us, we're fans, right? But for him, like, he's a human being, right? He's a human being who at his job suffered a significant injury, that it has to be a grueling recovery. He's not just laid up in a bed and then 9 months from now he's going to get out of bed and say, okay, I'm going to put my cleats on. You know, like he's got to be working endlessly to get back from this. We kind of saw from the One Jets drive how much he puts into his craft, how much work he puts in. And so for a guy like that, I feel like we have a tendency to be super impatient with things. And I think for him, my expectation is that he will contribute next year in some form or fashion. I just don't think it's going to happen right away. And I want us to be able to give that guy the opportunity to really come back and eventually go all in when he is 100% healthy and ready to go.
Yeah. And I wanted this to be a topic because I caught some flack for it a couple of weeks ago from some people on Twitter, of course, because where else would you get flack? But they were very upset that I had said that, you know, we can't expect Carl to just like immediately come back and be who we thought he was going to be coming into this year. And the other thing I kind of wanted to talk about, because it's Super Bowl week, Cam Akers is playing after suffering that injury in July, I believe it was, which is incredible. And tip of the cap to him. He must have certainly done some incredible, a lot of effort in his rehabbing, obviously. But they're two different people. And I think expectations should be tempered just a little bit. And I just wanted to hear what you had to say on that. We pretty much see it same way. Let's take a look at the comments here. Snoopy says Lawson or Becton should not be trusted at all. You can't trust them. You might be right in the sense that we have to see it before we can believe it. I think that's kind of what he's saying, is you can't just like count your eggs before they've hatched. Michael N., who I'm going to get to your question in just a moment, he says, second big injury to Lawson in his career. I'm worried this could be career threatening. He has trouble staying on the field. It's a shame because you can tell this guy wants to ball. I think I saw on social media he is actually working out. He is in the gym, putting in the work already. So he is not I think he's going to be ready to practice probably by training camp. I think he'll be ready to go. But it's one of those things like, how many reps are they going to give him? And when we get into the games, how many reps are they going to be giving him? I think it would be kind of crazy to throw him out there even for 60% of the snaps. I think that's way too much. They really need to bring him along slowly and probably just count on him as a third down guy, a situational pass rusher, and let him strengthen himself back all the way to full strength. All right, cool. So we pretty much see that the same way. Let me get to Michael N's comment. He says, just tuned in. What do you make of these rumors that the Jets are looking to trade back into the first? He says it sounds like Trey McBride, who is who they're targeting. And what I think he means by trade back into the first is moving up from 35 or 38 in the first round. Let's go ahead. We're going to change your question a little bit, Michael. If you were trading up from 35, and I know a lot of people are really against that, I'm flexible. Because if we trade back from 10, why the heck not trade up from 35? Like, I feel like there's options. So anyway, who would you be targeting? Would it be somebody like McBride in that, late first round range? Would it be Zion Johnson? I mean, there's a ton of names, but what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah. So Trey McBride is definitely an option there to move up. Also, I guess it's kind of, it's difficult because when we trade back into the first round, how far down are we going to? Down. I mean, how deep do we trade down into? We went from 23 to 14. Do we go from 35 to 20 or 21? How deep down do we go there? But I think you'd have to put Trey McBride in that conversation, Zion Johnson in that conversation, and there's probably a bunch of maybe, like we said, maybe it's a Perion Winfrey type of guy. For the interior defensive line to pair with the Quinn. And I think we still, correct me if I'm wrong, Sheldon Rankins is still under contract, right? But he's, I don't want to say, he's not like a future piece. But
he's only got one more year left, yeah.
So a guy like that, is it one of these guys that really just dominated the Senior Bowl that they got a chance to coach? Maybe he's on that list there. But I would think if you're going to trade back into it, it's got to be a position that is a big time need, and that's tight end, that interior offensive line, or the D line as a group.
All right, cool. And he seems to think that going after McBride would be the way to go. Blocking ability, can catch, would be the tight end that Zach needs. I would have no problem with it if they felt really good about it. Ron Middleton, our tight ends coach. You just look at that face of his, and you can't help but trust him. If he feels like McBride is the man and should be the guy that we go after for tight end, I'm all for it. So I hope that answers your question. We got Joe Douglas in the stream. Welcome, general manager of the New York Jets. He says, "Gentlemen, I already have my draft choices already made up. You'll be happy with my results. We can't wait to see them, Joey. We cannot wait." All right, let's keep moving here. Frank Pagan, excuse me. He says, "I bet in a couple of months London will fall in the 20s range, maybe even second round." And I will not call you crazy, Frank. Anything can happen. That's the thing. We are fans, and there are people out there that call themselves experts of the NFL draft. Nobody knows. We can all be wrong. We can all be right. There's no way to know for sure. So could that happen? Absolutely, because we've seen it so many times in the NFL draft. You just never know what's going to happen on draft night. It's too unpredictable. My wife, she says, "If they don't draft a tight end early, I'm calling the police." And Snoopy likes that comment. He says, "That's a good one." And I agree. They better call the police. If they don't go and make a big move for a tight end in this draft, I think that's a big mistake. Even if it's not Trey McBride, go get a Ruckert, a Ferguson. I mean, there's a million names in this draft class. There's too many to not go get somebody. I don't think we have to worry about that happening. All right, good stuff. We will go ahead and we'll skip the Tyler Linderbaum stuff. Maybe I'll save that for next week. We'll go to just Mekhi Becton, and then we'll do our film breakdown, and then with whatever time we have left, we'll do a mock. I really liked what Robert Saleh did at the Senior Bowl. We heard from DJ that he's never going to talk badly about a player in the media. Kind of did. I mean, he didn't say bad job Mekhi Becton, but he sort of chastised him a little bit there and said you're going to have to earn your spot. There's no reason to see why, Fant wouldn't have that spot as of right now. Fans are ruthless right now on Mekhi Becton on social media, legitimately ruthless. They are tweeting at him. They are DMing him. They're going to his live streams because he's playing video games, every once in a while. And they are just blitzing this dude up. So I want to hear, first of all, what was your reaction to Joe Douglas doing what he did, which I think was smart. I have no problem with that, and I'll explain why. But then what are your thoughts on Mekhi Becton and this video game stuff? I put the little video game emoji next to his name because people are losing their minds. He's playing video games. What in the world?
Yeah, let me address the video game thing first. So I hate the hard ass fans, and that across all sports, not just There's this generation of fan where if you're not doing something sport-wise for 24/7, you're not allowed to have some other kind of life. You don't work. We all work jobs. We work presumably as hard as we possibly can at our job. I like to come home and I like to put my feet up. Sometimes I put Netflix on. That doesn't mean when I wake up the next day it affects my ability to go to my job and work hard. There is an aspect of needing to wind down from what you're doing. It seems like he's working out. I don't know what his day is like. But if he's turning on the Xbox for a couple hours on a Tuesday night, let the guy be. He's probably trying to just, enjoy his life. It's probably something he did before football. So this mindset from fans of it's got to be like this if it's not, you're not, working as hard as you possibly can. I don't agree with it. Have a life, Mekhi. Work out and then have some fun afterwards. Don't get in trouble or nothing like that. But if you want to turn the Xbox on, have a blast. Play some Madden.
What about Robert Saleh's comments? We actually have Robert Saleh here. It's been a while since we've seen him. Good to see you, Coach. We've got the whole regime is here. He says, I'll never say bad things about players. I'll take care of it behind closed doors. I'm not with the negative culture. What about Robert Saleh's comments in the media at the Senior Bowl?
Yep. And sorry, very quick. I have a few friends watching right now from home. And one of my friends just texted me and said, tell everyone how much Call of Duty we used to play. So yeah, we used to play a lot of Call of Duty there, John. Thanks. And yeah, so guys do it. It is what it is. But for Robert, I like that he did it because it was an honest answer, in my opinion. Because I don't see there's no reason why he shouldn't have to earn the spot, right? Like, it's been a pretty interesting development with Becton since the end of his rookie year, right? So you have the foot issue in OTAs that led to all the offseason weight discussions, right? And then training camp hits. He's playing in training camp practices, and all we're hearing is Carl Lawson's whooping his behind. He can't block him. That turns into Mike LaFleur, kind of coming out, and I kind of have the quote here, not playing his best. He's going to have to work through all that stuff, So there were comments there kind of starting, and then all of a sudden we're like, all right, well, listen, we saw him play his rookie year. He was pretty dominant. Let's go to game time week 1 against Carolina, and he's going to show what he can do. Because we do forget, but after his rookie year, and everyone's opinion is different, but, NFL, network or whatever they do, they rank the top offensive tackles in football. And after his rookie year, Mekhi Becton, they ranked him 6th in the entire NFL. So it's there. It's just things have kind of happened. And then the most unfortunate of them all was the injury against Carolina, which led us to not seeing him again for 2021. And George Fant stepped right in, and he played pretty significantly in I think most of our eyes anyways. And so that's a spot that you can't mess with. If George Fant is going to be really good there, and you also have Mekhi, let them battle it out, and the best man's going to win. Yeah,
perfectly said. And I think that I'm not going to really talk too much on it, but I just want to say, like, the idea that the coach, said that he's got to earn his job back, I don't see that as a negative. I see that as a situation where they're going to compete, and man, the best man win. And I also want to mention that I feel like even if Becton isn't our left tackle, I actually feel really, really, really good about him being our right tackle. And I think maybe even, there's the players out there that say, I want to be a left tackle. That's where the money is. He might actually end up being able to make more money as a right tackle in the NFL, just based on the idea. I think he would actually be better at right tackle. Not to say he's not a good left tackle. I think he's excellent. And I have all of the belief that he can turn it around and have a really good season in 2022. But I do love the idea of him on the right side and Fant on the left side. So
yeah,
I don't know, man. I feel like that's a pretty good scenario. So even if he lost the job, the left tackle spot, I'm okay with that. And we saw what Fant can do on the left side. I don't know, man. I would love to hear what you guys have to say in the comments. What are you guys' thoughts on Becton potentially moving to the right tackle spot? Grant Rude, he has a dietitian. Yeah, I think he's making his moves, and I think he's making his moves quietly. And honestly, I think he's angry at a lot of different things. I'm sure he's angry that he got hurt. I'm sure he's angry at his coaches. He wants to play. He wants to be back in there. But he's got to earn it back. He's got to lose the weight and get back in shape and be ready to go in 2022. So we'll leave it there. I got a couple of quick comments here. So this is from Frank Pagan again, and he says, what's your thought on trading down from 10, using some of the assets to trade back into the first round? The Jets could end up with 3 first-rounders without losing any drafts or much of any draft assets. Thoughts? Frank, I have been talking about that, and I think that's a very good scenario. You have 3 players in the first round that will all have a potential 5th-year option. I think that's beneficial. And like you said, trading back and acquiring picks, trading up to get another player with that 5th-year option, I think is very beneficial. I wouldn't make the move to trade up unless we were able to recoup with that 10th overall pick. I think that's where you start to lose me a little bit. So we've still got forever until the NFL draft. So we'll be talking about that 10th pick all offseason, I'm sure. I think that's the only one that we have right now in the first round that will have trade value. I think that's going to be a slot where maybe a team wants to get a quarterback or another position, but we'll see. All right, we are done with our topics. We're going to go to a film breakdown, and if you've not been on the channel before, this is where James becomes the lead man and I become his wingman. And he is going to break down Garrett Wilson, so the wide receiver that many of us think is the number 1 wide receiver in this class. He's a great fit for the New York Jets. I'm going to let you do what you do best, man. And I will try, guys, if you could, just keep throwing your questions in there, your comments. And if you have questions about Garrett Wilson's game for James, I will absolutely read them to him, and he will respond to them as well. I'm going to get you looking a little better here, James. I do apologize. We got a weird camera going on here, but I'll get you straight. Oh, my. Hold on a second. What in the hell is this? Okay, here we go. Now we're cranking it out. So you're going to go, and I'm going to stop talking.
Cool. All right. So Garrett Wilson, wide receiver, Ohio State. And he is, obviously not someone we saw in the Senior Bowl because he is a junior. But he, from, kind of background on him, he was a top recruit. He was one of the top 15 recruits in the entire country coming out of high school. And he is in this ridiculous offense at Ohio State with guys like Chris Olave, with the other guy, Smith. He's got a long name. It's a hyphenated name. We all saw him in the bowl game, but it's kind of one that's very difficult to pronounce. But he's, 5-star freshman. Obviously, Jeremy Ruckert's back there, Trayvon Henderson, and then CJ Stroud up at quarterback. So when you're watching Ohio State, a lot of players are getting the ball that are going to be playing on Sunday, and Garrett Wilson just happens to potentially be the best one on the field there. So someone's dad's friends with Becton there.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. So here, Garrett Wilson is at the bottom of the screen. He is the wide receiver just underneath the 30-yard line there, about the 27 or so, as the number 1 in the doubles look to the field. So number 1 thing about Garrett Wilson, there is not a better route runner in this entire class. And that's not to take away from any part of his game. That's just the top notch. So here, ultimately, it's really just a run 12, come back to 10 at the snap. But the aspect about the route running is creating separation because the blind spot of the cornerback himself. So if we look at, John, if you want to run it there.
Sure.
Run it maybe just like a couple set. Yep, right there. So if that's a perfect spot to stop it. It's a simple release off the line of scrimmage. There's nothing fancy going on with the release itself. But what Garrett Wilson sees is the cornerback in what we call a bail technique. So at the line of scrimmage, the corner is just bailing. He's not backpedaling. He's not trying to jam him at the line of scrimmage. He's just bailing, but he's bailing with his eyes on the quarterback. His eyes are on the field. They're not on Garrett Wilson, which makes his life a whole heck of a lot harder when the wide receiver understands where the blind spot is. And the blind spot is, if you're going to play that bail technique, you can't be drifting inside. You have to drift outside because your peripheral vision is going to give you a look at the wide receiver and what he's doing. So Garrett Wilson, he starts at the top of the numbers there around the 30, and he's going to cut this thing to about the middle of the numbers, and he gets within the blind spot of this cornerback who now no longer knows where he is. And once that quarterback turns the field to try to find Garrett Wilson, that's when Garrett Wilson snaps it back. He puts his foot in the ground and he comes back to the football, and then he ultimately makes an acrobatic catch because he's a talented player. So this cornerback is what we call lost. I like to say, if I'm writing it in my notes, what I wrote was cornerback, got to get this dude a map. He doesn't know where he's at. And it's not just because he played it poorly. It's because Wilson understands the blind spot, where he's supposed to be running, how he gets in that blind spot of the defender, and ultimately at the right time cuts it off so that the defender cannot find him. And there he is, and then he makes that's a bad ball, unfortunately.
Yeah, really bad throw.
That still shot, you had a couple, but yeah, run it one time fully. I always get yelled at when I do my film reviews for Just X Factor, because people are like, the screen is on pause for way too long and you're just rambling on. So yeah, just route running, the understanding, that's how, that's part of the route running. Obviously the footwork is one thing. He does a great job sticking his foot in the ground and coming back, but that all happens because of how he sets up that cornerback with how that quarterback is playing in his own coverage.
Very cool. You made Grant Rood really happy. He was saying that he was thinking in his head that the cornerback was bailing, and then you said it. So
yeah, that bail technique is very difficult, but if you're going to do it, a lot of teams are kind of moving to it from what I've seen. Instead of your traditional backpedal and react, because it gives you a look at the whole field. But if you're going to do that, you can't let the wide receiver get behind you, because then you have no idea where he's at. And so, yeah, it was not a great throw, but ultimately he was coming back to the football, and he had to turn his body all the way back, and at the same time be on his vertical. I don't know what his vertical is going to be, but judging by that video, it might be very high. And the second play here, I'm always good for a play where the receiver does not get the football, but you have to show it anyways. So Garrett Wilson, again, bottom of the screen to the field. He's the number one on the outside. So he is going to run a a post route here, and completely leaves this cornerback in the dust. It's actually the same cornerback from the play before. So this dude's having a rough day.
Yeah.
Because, and a disclaimer here, the games I've watched is Oregon and Michigan State. So those are the clips we have from this game. So he got matched up with this corner quite a bit, and he had 126 and a touchdown in this game, I think. But here he didn't get the football, but it's a play that you're gonna be able to see where it says, okay, I kind of understand this guy and his route running ability. So at the snap, we see a little bit of that bail technique again. It's a little bit more of a back pedal, and you turn. You see the difference, actually. This is more of that back pedal where once he breaks your cushion, right, a corner has a cushion to where you say, okay, once he gets 3 yards on my feet, that's when I have to turn, because if I don't turn, he's going to run right by me. And so he breaks the cushion. But here, so here he goes right back to that blind spot. So when the cornerback eventually turns his hips, he gets inside. So what Garrett Wilson says is, okay, if I just run in front of his face, he's just going to trail behind on my back hip. So what I'm going to do is I am going to make an outside move, right? I'm going to stem to the outside. I'm going to get him to turn his hips, and then I'm going to break it to the post. Ooh. And that there is C.J. Stroud. I went back quite a bit, and I was like, could he have thrown this ball? He probably could have. He had a little bit of pressure, but if he had another half a second, this is most likely a Garrett Wilson touchdown, because this corner, first of all, it's bad technique by the cornerback. So there is a little bit of aspect of it there. He's super high in his back pedal. You're not breaking on anything with that kind of technique. But ultimately, in the first play, he found the blind spot almost right off the snap because the corner was in bail. This time, the corner played more of a back pedal technique, and he was going to be in a position where if he just ran a regular post, Ultimately, he was just going to get covered. He was going to stay on his hip. He found the blind spot, or he created the blind spot, and then shifted it to the post. And that corner just ultimately had no chance to cover him whatsoever.
Right. We do have a question for you here. I'll go to it right now. Kev Chada is asking. He says, "Do you compare wide receiver Garrett Wilson to Jefferson?" I imagine he's talking about Justin Jefferson of the Vikings or Jerry Jeudy of the Broncos.
That's a tough one. Jefferson, I'd probably go with a Jefferson. Jerry Jeudy is a little bit more, how do I say it? He has a little bit more foot action in terms of, he's got a lot of stutter releases. Stutter just meaning, he's kind of chopping those feet at the line of scrimmage before he ultimately gets into his route. That's kind of his release package there. And so I would put the route running of Garrett Wilson more on that Justin Jefferson level. I think Jerry Jeudy's very choppy with his feet, and Garrett Wilson is more of that explode out of the cut type of player, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll be happy with that answer. Let's see. I think I had one more question, but I'm not certain. It's a little bit off topic, but I'm going to hit it anyway because I like double dip. I like double dip questions. He says, if you were going to double dip at one position, he says one or two positions, which would they be? So we're a little bit off topic, but that's okay, Joe Grana. I actually am intrigued by this question, so I'm willing to take a small break from the film to answer. What would you do, James?
So when we say double dip, like throughout the entire draft?
Yeah, so like if you were going to take any position twice in the whole draft class, which would it be?
Okay. I would take I'm not going to say secondary because that's a cop out, I think. I'm going to go D line though, because I do think what they're looking for, I do think we'll see an interior defensive lineman. We'll see an edge player. We may see two edge players. So I think we're going to wind up with a very heavy defensive line class. And we will see them get picked, in multiple, in my opinion.
All right. Fair enough. All right. We'll keep it moving here. I don't want to stop you now. You got your film to break down, so we'll keep it out.
Yeah. All right. So once again, this is the last Oregon clip. Poor guy. Hopefully I know this Oregon corner is not watching, but just kind of just how the cookie crumbled for him on this Sunday. Oregon did win the game, so that's good. But now we have Garrett Wilson. He's still at the bottom of the screen on the left hash to the field, but he's condensed. He has a condensed split, so he's no longer to the outside near the numbers. And ultimately, when you look, kind of a cornerback's mind, that's where I always go, because that's where the receiver is going to go. What's he thinking that I'm going to do, right? And so with this route here, it's just an out route, very simple. He doesn't make it look very simple, Garrett Wilson. He makes it look extremely difficult, but to do. But ultimately, when he has that condensed split, you see the corner has an outside leverage on him because he's saying, okay, I'm the cornerback. This guy's got a condensed split. There's nobody outside of him. If he runs inside, okay, I'll just pass it off to a linebacker, right, if that's the coverage. But if chances are he's got that condensed split because he wants to use some form of the outside of the field, whether it's the out route, whether it's right to the flat, whether it's a corner route, whether it's a vertical down the seam there. He's going to try to use all that space that he's given himself by having that condensed split. And so he's going to play outside leverage. Didn't ultimately matter here because Garrett Wilson, what he's going to do is he's going to kind of give that little head fake, right? It's a very minor, take it inside just a little bit. You could go ahead and play it, John, there.
Sure.
Oh, yeah, by the way, when you watch Ohio State, it's like playing Peyton Manning in Madden. They never snap the ball right away. Remember when Peyton Manning used to call a million audibles in Madden, and you're like, just snap the ball. I'm sitting on my couch.
It was so simulation, man.
Yeah, so when you watch Ohio State, the videos are like an hour and change long because they're at the line of scrimmage forever. But
Jeez.
sorry, anyway, getting a little off track there. Um, so he cuts this just a very tad inside. Obviously, here out of his break, he's gonna explode out of the break. But he gives it to where I'm gonna essentially break that cushion of the corner. When I break that cushion, he's forced, right? He's forced to turn his hips, but I have not yet committed to which way I'm gonna go. And so he still thinks I may potentially cut this on a post. I could potentially cut this inside on a dig. So he leaves it at the very last moment to when the corner turns his hips to eventually break it outside. And that outside leverage that the cornerback had from the very beginning of it is completely useless at this point. He has defeated that outside leverage to where you don't see it very often, especially when the corner knows he has safety help over the middle of the field if it is into a post or it is something else there. So it's no big gain here. There's nothing crazy going on in terms of the yardage of it, but it's that release. It shows that ability to accelerate out of the break. He's got very good burst, and ultimately he's going to beat a cornerback, more times than not with his craft in the running. And it's very well. How do I say it? It's not. I don't want to say not normal, but it's not very often you see a guy at his age. He's only going to be 22 when the season starts. I think maybe July or August. So a guy like that to have this level of craftiness is, kind of says a lot, and sky's the limit is the ultimate idea with him here. So this year he scored 2 touchdowns against Michigan State. So we're going to go through both of them. This one a little bit more intricate in a sense. It looks very easy again, but the way that he sets up the safety, or maybe that's a D-back or a corner, but ultimately that safety, Garrett Wilson is in the slot on the hash to the field. So he's right there. He's going to score a touchdown. It's just a post route. He gets wide open. This DB ultimately has no chance because Garrett Wilson knows we're on the 12-yard line, right? He's not going to be backpedaling a whole bunch. He's already got 8 yards, 9 yards of separation on me. So his idea is if I have this much separation, if Garrett Wilson makes a move, 5 yards, right? If I backpedal 3 or 4 yards, I can then break on whatever it is that he decides to do. And for Garrett Wilson here, he ultimately waits. Yeah, he ultimately waits until, he's at that 4-yard mark between the him and the defensive back. But he gives a very, very slight. You can see his left hip and his head turn to the left.
Yes.
As though he's going to give, he's going to give that outside stem move at the top of the route, and it actually turns the hips of the safety just enough to where he feels like his momentum is now going to the outside pylon, for instance, right? The outside, where it might be a smash combination on this side. And just at that last moment there, when that right foot of the defensive back gets wide, and now he has that wide base, he cuts it inside, and there is zero chance for that guy, that corner safety. There wasn't much of anything for him to do, but yeah, that's perfect stop right there.
Yeah.
See how wide at that same moment in time that cornerback's feet are, and that's because he's anticipating that he may go outside, and so he shifts to that outside. Garrett Wilson cuts it, and it's a nice little burst there. Nothing crazy. He knows he's going to score there, but yeah. So pretty elite route running. Hopefully that's been the theme that's come across in this one. That's kind of what I tried to show, because ultimately that's his best trait. And that's what wins in the National Football League. You've got to be able to run crisp routes. So last one here. Oh, go ahead.
No, it's okay. I was just going to say, and that's what fans are talking about. That's why so many people are saying he's the ideal wide receiver for the New York Jets. A lot of people will say, oh, well, we already have Elijah Moore. He's a crafty route runner. I don't know if you can have too many of those guys on your team that are just really, really good at that. But I do understand, and that's why I like Drake London. That's why I like Traylon Burks, because it is something a little bit different. It's variety.
Yeah.
So Rusty Spooner is saying no go on Garrett Wilson being the number 1 wide receiver. I would be interested to see who your number 1 is. Is it Traylon Burks? Is it somebody else?
Right.
Let us know in the chat. Don't just give me a thumbs down. I do see you talking about Jackson Smith, though. He says had 345 receiving yards alone in the Rose Bowl, which was a record for Ohio State.
Yeah.
Exposed Lloyd against Utah. These are the facts. Fair enough.
Yeah, that player that he's talking about will most likely, very likely, wind up being the number 1 wide receiver in his class, but he's a couple years out.
There you go.
This was just his friend. That was that Rose Bowl game, wild, 345 yards. That was his freshman year. He's going to be a future number 1 guy. So time's coming for him too. But for now, GW is up.
Yep.
And so this one here, I'm trying to make this a theme where it's just something fun where you guys can just watch it and enjoy. Because yes, he doesn't have like the Jamison Williams speed that we're always talking about. You know, that type of, I guess I'll call it elite speed. He creates it in various other ways though, right? He looks like he's fast. I don't think he's slow by any means. I think he just uses his route running to create that separation, and ultimately it forces big plays. And here, this is a 77-yard touchdown. He just runs right by the corner. I don't know if the corner thinks he maybe has help. The safety, and I'm sorry, he's at the bottom of the screen. Garrett Wilson, he's at the boundary this time. And so the corner is it's somewhat of a press technique. He's a little bit off. It's a little bit of an off man, not totally off man, I guess. Off man would be probably 5 or 6 yards, but he's sort of in a jam. It's sort of like a cover 2 look. He's got a safety over the top. I don't know what this safety may see, but they don't work together very well, and ultimately Garrett Wilson just completely smokes both of them. And so you can play it if you want. It's just going to be a quick right off the line. He gives the inside move. He puts his hands up. He knows he's going to score. He puts his hand up right in stride. And listen, they're still at the 45. There's guys trailing him. He's got a little bit of a breakaway type of ability to him also. If you leave him open like that, he is going to expose you. And when he gets the ball in his hand, he is a threat to score from anywhere on the field there. And so he gets that, and it's a long touchdown. Now it's nothing to, break down. He gives them an inside move because he sees that safety come down, and there's no help over the top. And ultimately, he's in the end zone for 77 yards, and he had another monster game against Michigan State, including these 2 touchdowns. Easy watch because they were up 56-0 at the end of the first half. So
good stuff. Thank you very, very much, James.
My pleasure.
So that part of the channel really is James. That's not me. He sends the clips in, and he obviously is doing all of the work there. If you enjoy those, guys, let us know. Let James know. I'm sure he appreciates knowing that. And
yeah, please.
Typically, that's something we do once a week. Some weeks we don't do it, but for the most part, we try to do it every week if we can. And, it's really up to him. I don't pick for him. I think I did early on, and I kind of realized maybe I should let the guy who does it, maybe he should be the one that picks. So James is the one that will choose, who we do each week. We did have somebody asking for the FSU edge, Jermaine Johnson. Yeah. But there's a million players, and there's still so much time. We're going to get a lot of these guys on film on the channel. So hopefully you guys tune in each week, and we will continue to do those, hopefully. But anyway, thanks so much, James, for doing that.
Yeah, no, of course.
We're going to wrap this baby up. We're going to go ahead and we're going to do our 3-round mock draft, and that'll conclude the show. Again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you haven't hit the like button, go ahead and do it right now. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Really appreciate it. There's content coming out this weekend. I'll have some videos out there for you guys to watch. Let's go ahead. Let's not waste any time. Let me get to my projector screeny here. We'll pull up the draft. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. We're going to do Jets. We're going to do 3 rounds. And let's do this.
Wow.
I think we're going to restart this one.
I don't know. It was in our head or something. Garrett Wilson got picked too. So
that was bizarre. So I've done a million of these mocks. Truly, I've done a bunch of them. And I've never seen Garrett Wilson go 3 in the mocks. I've never seen that. We're going to redo that one. I think that maybe it's kind of like Alexa.
Yeah, right.
Wait, what the heck is happening? It's like Alexa when she listens to your conversation. I apparently don't know what I'm doing. All right, here we go. All right. There we go. That's a little bit more believable, even though George Carl Loftus went ahead of Kayvon Thibodeau. But I think this is a good scenario for us, a good way to, mock this out. Guys in the chat, go ahead and let us know what you want us to do at this pick. We're getting trade offers, which we're not going to do, I don't think, but the Ravens are trying to trade up really, really bad. They're giving up way too much, in my opinion. Actually, no, I would take that too. There's no future first though, so maybe not. But all right, so the 3 edges are gone, and would this scenario happen? Maybe not. Kev Chata says, "I love it. Accept the trade." Anything, any trade backs would be great. Michael, we did where we select every first round pick. So Michael, when we get closer, actually, you know what? Scratch that. When we get really close to free agency, or when we're already at free agency, 100% we're gonna do a million mocks on the channel. Is Dan Campbell in this chat? Right, he's listening. He's paying attention to James. He's watching. That's a pretty funny comment, John. So we've got some people throwing names in the chat. And guys, this will make the mocks a little bit easier if you do that. Not to put too much pressure on our viewers here, but if you throw some names out there that you really want to see, that'll guide the conversation for us a little bit. So right now, the easy choice right now is looking like offensive line. Matt Morris says go Evan Neal. Snoopy, he says take Icky, which is Ikem Ekwonu. Vern is going to say, let's take Hamilton. I don't know if we're going to do Hamilton again. We did him last time, and we did not like the way that draft worked out. Grant Root says, let's take Wilson at 4. Consensus will be Icky, though, and I'm not opposed to that either. Neil Afram is saying you got to take Neil. What do you think, James? You're the Crimson Tide man, so
I know it's tough for me.
Is it a situation where you are taking Neil, no questions, or is it like a tough decision to make between he and Ekwonu?
No, it's a tough decision for sure. Yeah, no, I'm not no questions asked. Evan Neal at 4. If I think that's the most difficult part is, okay, if no offensive line go, and Grant, that yes, he played guard. He played everything actually. He played 3 different spots in 3 years. So he played the guard, the right tackle, and then the left tackle. And so I think overall, I think offensive line is the way to go in this situation.
Yeah.
If no offensive lineman has been taken, we have our cream of the crop here. It's got to be either Neil or Ikem.
Fair enough. We'll do a poll. Holy moly, that's pretty cool. So I put a poll in the stream, and because you were doing the film breakdown of Garrett Wilson, it is 50-50 right now on the votes. Is Garrett Wilson wide receiver 1? 30 people voted yes. 30 people said that is fictional. So that's pretty cool, actually. I don't think I've ever seen a poll end with a 50-50 split. The reason why I said that, though, is we're going to make a poll real quick, guys, and we're going to give you the choice. It's going to be between those two. We're going to say who you want, and we'll go Ikem, and we'll say Neil, and we'll say go, vote. I'll leave the poll open. The Highlander Prime, he says Detroit won't take Carl Loftus, and you're 100% probably right there, but they might take or excuse me, let me rephrase that. The Lions may take Kayvon Thibodeau in this scenario, and if that happened, Wilson might be the pick, or I'm sorry, Hamilton might be the pick at 3. So with these mock drafts, you have to be a little bit imaginative. You have to do your brain gymnastics here and just kind of imagine different players in these spots. But you're probably right. There's no way Carl Lawson is in the top 3, in my opinion. All right now we've got 11 votes, and Ikem is leading. He's 55% to 45. Neil. I'll give it another 10 seconds, and then we will make a pick. But it's right now. It's Ikem, and he right now is. There was a interview, and they asked him, what do you envision yourself as in the NFL? And he did say left tackle, which is interesting. I think that, people are hoping that this pick is a guy that can play guard and would be willing to play guard, because if Becton is good, then you can have, one of these guys playing left tackle, right tackle. And then if we re-sign George Fant, he could stay at left, Mekhi Becton could stay at right, and then this guy could go in at guard. So there's all kinds of scenarios here, but everybody's voting for Ikem, so we're going to go ahead and make him the pick. It is going to be, am I saying it right? Is it Ikem Ekwonu? Are you there, James?
Yeah, I'm here.
Is that?
Yeah, I believe that's how you pronounce it.
Okay, I wasn't sure. All right, we got a trade offer, and it's a pretty juicy one. We can talk about it. I don't know. It's hard to know with these mocks how we should handle the trades, but they want 10. They want to give us 22. We would pick up a second this year and a second next year, and it looks like we're giving them a 4th round pick. Don't think that's a crazy trade by any means. Not completely out of the realm. I guess I'll throw in the chat. Do you guys want to... We could simulate. That's the thing. Like, we can simulate trading back from 10. We haven't done that yet. And I do think that's something that the Jets would be really interested in if they could slide back from 10 to pick up another pick. Kev Chata says no to the Raiders offer. He says counter on the next offer. Okay, Afram's saying no, you have 4 offers. Okay, fair enough. So we can look at the other offers here. Let's reject that one. The Saints are at 18. That's a little better, actually. I think I like this one a little bit better. We're picking 4 spots earlier, and we still get the 2nd round pick.
And we're only giving up 10.
And we're only giving up 10, too. So no 4th rounder giving up there. I kind of like that one. Is there a way? Oh, we can hit next.
Yep, next. Yep.
Jeez Louise. Okay, so the Lions are giving us the 1st round pick at the end of... Do they even have pick 32?
Yeah, it's very weird. Maybe there was some kind of trade or something.
Okay. Some people are saying no to the Saints trade. I like the Saints trade, actually. And then the Cowboys are offering 24, 56, a future 2nd, and a future 5th. I don't know, guys. I like this one. The Saints offer is good, and maybe it's not perfect, but I would like to see what kind of draft we could end up with by sliding back from 10. But I will let you guys decide. Looks like Michael really wants to do the Saints.
I'm also not... I'm not going to say not opposed. I actually am really intrigued by some of that compensation if we do trade back being in 2023.
You're interested in the idea of having picks in 2023? Yeah, I am too. I think Mike even, Mikey boy, he even said that's something that he would like to see is if we are moving back, try to get some picks for the future. Yeah. And I do think that would be beneficial.
Right. That's what, like when the Giants moved from 11 to 20, they moved back. That's quite a jump. But they wound up, I don't know what they got in that exact draft, but they wound up with Chicago's number 1, in the next year, and look what happened. So you never know who you're kind of trading with there. And those future assets are always nice to work with.
All right, so it's pretty split. We do have one commenter saying let's counter it and try to maybe get, instead of the future 7th, let's try to get a future or the current 5th. They might pass on that, but I'm okay with that. And again, it's pretty even right now. People are saying do it. People are saying not to do it. So let's do the middle ground here. Let's make a counter offer to the Saints. And let's do, since we're not going to draft a 5th round pick in this mock anyways, let's just make it a future 5th.
Yeah.
And I'm going to propose that. Confirm it. Okay. Okay. They are not having it. Not even remotely. Okay. So they declined it. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to pick at 10, I think. I think that's the fair thing to do. And again, it was pretty split. So we will pass on a draft pick. I'm going to go ahead and say right now, next week, we will trade back from 10. So if you're one of those people that really wanted to see it, I really wanted to see what the draft would look like from 10. It's going to happen next week, whether you wanted to or not. So we are stuck at 10 right now, and we are going to pick between some players. There's a lot of dudes. So Garrett Wilson, we highlighted him. He is available. We have Charles Cross. We already took an offensive lineman, though. Jamison Williams. Probably a little early for him. Tyler Linderbaum. Drake London. Traylon Burks. Go to the defensive side here. Kyle Hamilton is there again. Ahmad Gardner. I know James is going to be a very upset person if we don't take him.
That's okay.
But let's go ahead and let's do another poll here. And I'm going to throw a couple of names in this one. I'm going to definitely say that Garrett Wilson should be included. We did the film review of him, so he should be included. We're going to say Wilson. We're going to say Hamilton, because I think a lot of people will be mad if I don't include him. I'm also going to include let's do Devin Lloyd. He's in that conversation, I think. And then we'll also throw Gardner. Because then you will not come back if I don't have him on this list. The poll is up. I put 4 guys in there, 4 different positions. I think that's a pretty good group there. What do you guys think? Snoopy is saying this is a tough one. There are too many players right now that we could go at. It's like one of those scenarios where you could just you could blindfold yourself and pick a player and you'd be helping your team. Michael N says Burks, maybe another night. We just did the film review on that. We got to take him over Traylon Burks, at least for tonight. Vern says Ikem Hamilton 2.0. Did we take Ikem last week too?
Oh, did we?
I know we took Hamilton at 10. Vern reminded me of that. Kev Chatta
we did.
He says Kev Chatta says Jermaine Johnson at 10 all the way. Michael says we're about to argue hard over this pick. 100% correct, sir. You are correct. Snoopy says I had to go with the wide receiver here. Okay, so Wilson is tied with Hamilton. I'm going to give you another 10 seconds. I will be so mad at you all if we do Hamilton again. Just saying.
Would we literally just wind up with reverse picks from last season?
That's what I'm saying. It's the exact same thing.
Executive decision, John.
Oh my gosh, look at this. Hamilton's winning. And Grant Root saying he liked the draft last week.
I thought we got great players last week. It just, I feel like position-wise, it felt maybe off. I don't know.
Charles Berry in the chat. What's up, Charles? There's a lot of new names in the chat, which is so cool. I love the fact that we're getting some different people in here. Not to say I don't love our regulars, but it's cool to have all of these different voices. So thanks for coming in here. He says we need to chill with these trades. He says we need quality starters. So what he's saying is go get those blue chippers. Don't worry about, adding more picks right now. Just go get those blue chips. Thank goodness. Some people voted for Garrett Wilson, and he is the leader right now, 46% to 38%. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make him the pick. So we're going to take Garrett Wilson here, guys. It's an offensive heavy first round. We still have all of our second round picks, so we can go pretty defensive here if you guys want. The Cowboys have offered us pick 56 and a future second. I'm not taking that one.
No, what the heck?
And then the Same scenario with the Steelers. I'm passing on that one as well. So there you go. And we'll take a look at who was drafted real quick. So Kyle Hamilton went right after number 10. He went to the Washington Commanders. Jordan Davis, Chris Olave. I think the Browns are going to take a wide receiver. A lot of people are pointing that as like a big need for them. So that makes some sense. The Eagles with a haul here. Jamison Williams.
My kind of haul right there.
I know, right? Ahmad Gardner. Nobody wanted Ahmad Gardner. My God.
Jesus.
I know, right?
Wow.
Trevor Penning goes 20th overall. And we've got Nakobe Dean going to the Eagles, just crushed in this. I mean, those are really good football players there. I feel like that's a really good... I mean, they're going to do good in this draft no matter what.
Yeah.
The Dolphins add Tyler Linderbaum. And two of our favorite edges, or my favorite edges, Jermaine Johnson and Cameron Thomas, both went before pick 37. When did this happen? And I just got a message from Jeremy Cravat, and he asked me the same thing. Do we have when did we get pick 37 instead of pick 35?
You know, we should have 35 and 38.
Right. Did something happen? Did like a coin flip happen? Because I know that's a thing. Like, that would be weird.
No, I don't think so. I'm pretty sure it's set.
I don't know.
That's weird. Last week it wasn't 37 last week.
Mike.
Right?
No, it wasn't. It was not 37 last week. So I'm confused, but we will pretend like it's 35.
We'll pretend.
Yeah. Okay. So he says Jermaine Johnson. Unfortunately, he was taken 2 picks before this one, and that's where we're supposed to be picking. Again, I don't know what the heck happened. Might not be using this mock simulator anymore because it's being weird. But anyway,
I got a good one I could send over to you.
Okay, that'll work. I appreciate that. All right, so we're looking at the players that are available. Isaiah Spiller is there, running back. David Bell, we already took our wide receiver. Probably not going to do that again. Tight ends, Trey McBride is there. I know that's going to be a popular one in the chat. We did take our offensive lineman, but Zion Johnson is available. I wanted to check and see if he would still be there. Defensively, Lewis Sine, the safety from Georgia, is there. Drake Jackson, the edge from USC. This might be a little early for Chad Muma, although I do like him a lot. And that's about it. Devontae Wyatt from Georgia, the defensive lineman, defensive tackle. So what do we want to do here? And Vern making a good point here. He says, look at all the wide receivers that are still there. You can't go wide receiver at 10. And I think I might agree. I think in a perfect world, we're trading back from 10, still landing a wide receiver like Traylon Burks or Drake London. But a lot of people are saying, let's go ahead and let's just take Garrett Wilson at 10. I think there's nothing wrong with that mindset either.
Sure.
So Snoopy says, let's go with McBride. James, what would you do?
So we went offensive line and wide receiver. We have 2 picks right here.
Mm-hmm.
One of them for me has got to be on the defensive edge, defensive side of the football. What do we got edge-wise here? What are we looking at?
Drake Jackson, Kingsley, and Egbar. The guy I think we took him last week, actually.
We took him last week.
Yeah. Nothing saying we can't take him again.
Yeah, the Penn State edge also.
Mm-hmm.
Also it may not be all that crazy for a Chad Muma at this run. Do you go Muma McBride, Muma
yeah.
Bride. A defensive. I think we got to keep. We definitely got to address the tight end spot, but I would go some kind of defender tight end mix.
Okay, I think that's fair. A lot of people are saying McBride for sure. Like, we're not going to pass on him if he's there. Vern, you make a good point. I think that's the thing. Like, if he's there at 10, like in the real world, like if that actually ends up happening, that will be a hard pass, like a really tough one. I maybe you're right. Maybe Joe Douglas won't be able to pass on him at that 10th pick overall. And you're not alone. There would be a lot of people that would be upset, I think.
Right.
Matt Morris says linebacker wide receiver will be great in the second round. There's definitely some value there. I love Chad Muma. I would really like him. Michelle says, WWJD, what would James do? That's a good one. Was Mafe already picked? Let's find out. Mafe. He is not. He is available. The edge from Minnesota is there. So let's go ahead and let's make this either Lewis sign, an edge, the tight end, or Chad Muma. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make that poll life a little easier. We'll take 2 players. So tight end, linebacker, safety, edge. You've got 4 positions there, excuse me. What 2 are you going with is the question. Can you still see my screen? Yes, you can.
Yep.
Is McDuffie there? No, McDuffie was taken earlier. I can prove that to you. Yeah, he was at 25 to the Buffalo Bills. So we got Grant saying definitely take the tight end. Jim Pox says let's go edge tight end. Matt Morris says tight end corner. Let's go ahead and let's take our tight end. We know we're going to take the tight end here. I think everybody's in agreement there. We're going to go ahead and take Trey McBride at number 37, even though it should be number 35. Washington is trying to trade up. I'm not taking that. So McCreary would be another interesting name. So if he's even there, that would be interesting. Let me see here. Cornerback. McCreary is available. He's one of the guys that Grant Root and I kind of agree on. That would be a really good fit for the defense. So if we need a corner, I know we didn't get Ahmad Gardner. That could be a really good player fit. Absolutely. Chad Muma is a good fit. An edge is a really good fit. So let's do, we didn't take Drake Jackson last week. Let's do Jackson. We'll do positions. We'll do edge, cornerback, and we'll do linebacker. We'll do 4 positions again. Why not? And we'll do safety. This is going to be a defensive pick. It has to be. We've already taken 3 offensive players. I mean, we have some things we need to work on the defensive side. So there you go, guys. Who do you want at this position? Edge, corner, linebacker, or safety? Somebody's saying, Frank Pagan is saying, let's go ahead and take Arnold out of Penn State. The edge. Jim Pox says, we have talent at wide receiver. They just need to be healthy. And we just drafted Garrett Wilson. And we don't know what they did in free agency. Kev Chata, we're going to stick and pick, I think. But we're going to do trades, man. Next week is going to be trades only. We're going to be taking trades at 10, and we will look to trade back maybe or even trade up from the second round. You went cornerback? I don't know if it'll matter. Edge is kind of crushing right now. 55% of the votes right now are to the edge position. John Morello is saying I would have taken the Washington offer. I do apologize. They were offering a future third, I think, for only a couple of a couple of spots back. Definitely, if it were the real draft, because we're only doing the 3-rounder, maybe we need to start doing the 7-round mock draft. I don't know. Let's see. Yeah, McCreary is there. I really like the idea of adding him to the secondary. But Edge is winning, man.
Yep, McCreary's there.
D-Man, what's going on? Thank you so much for tuning in. I just used another mock simulator, and they have the Jets picking 36 and 38. Okay, so there's just like a bunch of simulators that just don't have the draft order right, which seems impossible. You would think they would know the draft order. Charles Berry, I'm with you. I really like I like the idea of getting a linebacker. I have a video coming out on Saturday with the top 5 needs for the Jets, and linebacker is in the top 5. And I have it ahead of a couple of positions that will really upset James. So, all right, let's go ahead. Let's take the edge. It's clearly going to win. And James, I'll let you make the pick. What do you want? You want the kid from Penn State? I think that's the only name drop that we got in the chat for the edge. And Jim Pock says, yeah, let's do edge.
Poof.
Don't screw
I'll go edge. Let's go Arnold from Penn State. I think he's a super talented kid. So
yeah, a lot of potential with him. And I think I mentioned it last week. He's a guy that a lot of people see as like a third down pass rusher in the first year of his career, but that's not really a bad thing. We need those kinds of guys, developmental dudes. All right, these would take us out of the third round. This pick 84 might not. I would definitely consider that one. It gives us the future third. But we're going to just go ahead and stick and pick. This will be the last draft pick. We are supposed to be picking at 69.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
James, whatever simulator you got. This one's going in the dump. I'm not using this one anymore.
I'll send you the site.
Frank Pagan says Muma is good, but I think there's a chance he's there in the third round. I took him at 38 in my mock draft on Sunday, and it is a little early. I think I got a couple of comments talking about how that might have been too early. I just think linebacker is a really important position of need for our team. So I was willing to reach just a little bit. I like him a lot. I like Muma. All right, Matt Morris is saying, let's go ahead and get a linebacker next. Charles Barry, you're not wrong. We traded with them for Demaryius Thomas, and that was like the first trade in my Jets fandom I've ever seen them pull a trade with the Pats. So I would agree. Very unlikely. Grant Rude making a good point. We could have taken McCreary.
I just saw that.
Yep, the Auburn corner, and we could have still had, our edge. Mayf is still there. Sanders is still there.
Mm-hmm.
One of these days or one of these nights, we're gonna do a chat-free draft. We'll do like a full first round mock draft, and potentially we'll even do a 3-rounder with, what we think would happen and what these other teams will be doing. Okay, so we all agree, or I think a lot of people agree, linebacker would be good, maybe even a corner, a safety. Kirby Joseph is a guy I keep hearing about. I didn't hear too much about him in the Senior Bowl. Did you hear anything about Kirby Joseph?
No, I didn't hear much about it. There's some good linebackers there. But no, I didn't hear. I haven't heard much about him. I got to take a look at him because I have seen his name a little bit more often.
So let's take a look at these linebackers. Brandon Smith, the Penn State linebacker, very, very speedy guy, sideline to sideline. Quay Walker of Georgia. I do not know Brian Asamoah. Is that Nnamdi Asamoah's? Is that a relative of his?
I don't think so. Is that he's at Oklahoma, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Damon Clark is a name that I read about. Yeah, I just said him.
Damon Clark is a good name too at LSU there.
So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I'm just thinking out loud. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I think we'll take a linebacker here. What do you guys say? We're gonna do a linebacker. Who do you want? Just throw the names in the chat, and we will wrap this show up. And again, just want to thank you guys. There was a lot of people who watched tonight. Really means a lot. The channel's growing, and it's really thanks to you guys. You guys tune in and you watch every week. We have people who've been watching since literally like the second episode of the channel's existence. So I hope you don't ever forget that we really appreciate you guys tuning in and being a part of this. It's just a ton of fun. So, and again, you make it the experience that it is, which is awesome. So Tyndall is in the chat right now. Grant Rude wants to say, what's at safety? Verone McKinley of Oregon, Kirby Joseph of Illinois, a guy that I read about. I like as a late round guy, maybe mid-round guy. Yusuf Corker, that's a great name. Sterling Weatherford, Smoke. Oh my God, these names. The dude's name is Smoke Monday. What about a Smoke Wednesday? What about a Smoke Wednesday? Right now, the only names there is Tyndall. I like Brandon Smith, the linebacker from Penn State. James, you said Damon Clark.
Yeah.
What's up, Robbie? Robbie Oak, you're just you're just hiding the whole stream, and then you come in at the last minute. Grant Rude does not like those safeties. Thomas Cahill, you're the only one that's mentioned a player, so we might just have to go ahead and take your guy, Tyndall.
Tyndall's a good player.
Let's do that.
He's
Kev Chatta says Brian Asamoah was a Senior Bowl standout. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, he was. He stood out. Tyndall, I want to say he was in the Pro Bowl too. I could be wrong there.
Let's go, Charles. Love that. All right, Thomas Cahill, he's thrilled about it that I said let's do what he wants. So let's make his day. We're going to do what Mr. Cahill wants to do. And so that will conclude the 3-round mock draft. It's the second one of the off season. So here's our mock draft. Ikem Ekwonu, the offensive tackle of North Carolina State. There's a chance that he could play guard. I think there's some flexibility maybe there. Garrett Wilson, wide receiver, Ohio State. I wouldn't blink an eye. I would be happy as could be if we ended up selecting him in the first round. Trey McBride, that draft pick should have been 35. It's a goofy mess, but I love the pick there. Arnold Ebiketie, edge rusher. I actually really like this draft. This is a much better draft for me personally, for my soul. We hit a lot of the needs that I wanted to. Charles says, I'm in an abusive relationship with my Jets. We all are, man.
Yeah,
so welcome to the club.
Welcome. Yep.
All right. That's going to conclude episode 41. We had DJ Bien-Amie, DJ Bien-Amie, excuse me. I always say his name wrong. He joined us. So if you missed that, tune in for the beginning of the episode. He was there. We're looking forward to next week. We're going to have another show. And just thank you guys so much for tuning in. Any thoughts before we wrap this thing up, James?
No, it was a good night. Appreciate being on always. Have fun with you guys and the comments and the questions. It's all fun. We're gonna get to the draft and the free agency. It's gonna be really fun when it really kind of goes down. We see what the Jets do.
Yeah, and free agency is roughly like a month away.
Oof, that's not that far away.
I've been called all kinds of names tonight. First of all, somebody called me Ryan. Now I'm Jake from State Farm. It's John, but it's okay. Thank you very much, Vern. Really appreciate that. It does beat the winter doldrums. That is the nice thing about the off season. It's long and it's something to talk about. So
for sure.
All right. That's it. Episode 41's in the books. See you guys next week. Don't forget to hit the like button. Subscribe if you're new. Thank you guys so much for watching. Go Jets. And we will see you guys next time. Peace. Word from a daughter.